All right, what's up? Welcome to our live tonight. We are talking about Brian Laundrie being caught, especially using Gabby Petito's debit card. And part of the reason for that is I live in the area where he was caught. And I actually went to the gas station and confirmed with myself, literally me asking the manager of the gas station, did Brian Laundrie come into this gas station on August 31st, and they totally confirmed it. They said, in fact, the manager's words were, he was in here, she was not. And I think that's scary. Could you imagine being the gas station attendant that day and then figuring out that Brian Laundrie, the murderer, possibly, allegedly, I guess we can't say that, is on the loose, and he had actually came in, taken somebody else's debit card. It was confirmed that it was Gabby Petito's debit card, used it and her PIN number to withdraw money out of an ATM and make a purchase. I think that's crazy. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah. Do we know like how much he spent and like what all he bought and stuff like that?
So the latest report says that he withdrawed money out of ATMs. So it sounded like he probably knew how much money was in her account and was withdrawing the money from ATMs at different places. Possibly, I don't know, we don't know this, possibly he was storing up some money so that he could put it away for the future. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this video, thank you for tuning in. We got some official footage we're going to show you in a minute. Can you comment where you're from? We want to know, where are you watching this from? Go ahead and please just comment where you're watching this from. And any questions or intel that you have, let us know. We would love to know any information that you would like to know about this. We'll put your questions on the screen and go from it. What do you think, Evan? If you had to wager some money on it, do you think that he's guilty?
Oh, I think he's 100% guilty, whether it's on accident or not. I know that there's a ton of allegations that are going around of different things that could be happening, and it's just crazy to start thinking about it and start rolling with the different ideas of what could be going on. And I hope that we're able to find him just so we can get answers of what exactly happened.
Let's go ahead and play this video. This is video that I shot earlier today of Casey's General Store, where Brian Laundrie was caught using Gabby Petito's debit card.
Breaking news.
New information surrounding Brian Laundrie's return home to Northport, Florida from Jackson Hole, Wyoming was released today.
All right.
New information surrounding Brian Laundrie's return home to Northport, Florida from Jackson Hole, Wyoming was released today. A local convenience store clerk at the Casey's General Store in Benton, Illinois confirmed that Laundrie stopped in on August 31st. The family friend of Gabby Petito confirmed during a News Nation interview that Laundrie was in fact using Petito's as more detail in the manhunt for Laundrie, who we know entered Florida shortly after on September 1st. So we know on August 31st that Brian Laundrie was spotted using Gabby Petito's debit card in Benton, Illinois, and then shortly after had returned home to Northport, Florida. On September 11th, Petito was reported missing, and then on September 14th, Petito's family was begging Laundrie to help, and a search warrant was executed for the van. On September 15th, Laundrie was named a person of interest. So Brian Laundrie would have pulled off of this interstate intersection right here and made a right at this stoplight and would have entered his way into this Casey's General Store, which local officials are saying is the gas station in which Brian Laundrie's information was found using Gabby Petito debit card and PIN number.
So there it is. That is the Casey's General Store. I went there today myself. This is me driving down the road. I went there myself today and confirmed with the manager of the store that exactly what it looks like, exactly what we just said in that video. Brian Laundrie used Gabby Petito's debit card at that. Why is that important, Evan, that we know that? And by the way, Jameson, thank you for the comments. If you have any comments, Jameson, that you would like on the screen, let us know. We'd be glad to put it on the screen. Thank you for commenting. If you're watching, please hit the like button. It helps us. This is our first ever video. It helps us get it out to the YouTube algorithm. So please hit the like button. But we know as a fact on August 31st, he was at this gas station. Why is it important, Evan?
Oh, it's insanely important, mainly because it kind of gives us a timeline of when and where he was. We really, that's the biggest thing, is kind of tracking of the route he took and kind of getting a timeline of the places he stopped and the things he did during that time. A lot of the reasons to see exactly where he went, to see if he even went home, to see the path he took after he got home.
Yep.
And there's a lot of allegations that are going around of, was he even home? And I know that some of the neighbors and stuff have kind of confirmed that they saw him and that they went camping with his family and stuff like that. But it just really gives us a timeline of what to expect from him.
Yeah, that's important, because that is a big question that people have been asking. Did he actually go home? Well, we now know that the neighbors across the street verify that he was there. And not only that, now we have official word, personal word from the manager of the store to me. It happens to be in the town I live in where he stopped. And I went there and I had the conversation. And as a fact, 100% fact, Brian Petito was on his way home and stopped in Illinois. So we know that he was home. Do you think the parents are hiding him?
I think that they definitely have knowledge of where he was, and they helped him get away. And obviously that's not confirmed or anything, but they seen him, they went camping with him, and now he's gone. So I think that there's something that's going on that they know that they're not talking about. And I think a lot of that is because of their attorney. They kind of told him to keep quiet. Their attorney knew about everything before really the world did. And I think that was the big factor in keeping their mouths shut during this whole thing.
I would say there's a slight chance that the family really doesn't, like the mom, there's a slight chance they really don't know what happened. For all we know, Brian came home from the trip and said, hey, yeah, things got bad with Gabby. We started fighting. She wanted to be left there. She went ahead and went to Oregon to where we were going to end the trip, and I came home. She took a flight to Oregon. I drove the van home. We're going to take a couple weeks off, and after that, we'll figure out how to mend this relationship. That could have been the story that he was telling, and Jameson, the defense attorney, is saying his attorney did the job. His attorney did his job. That's a great point. The parents are listening to the attorney. They're keeping their mouths shut. We know the parents left. We just saw footage of them leaving. We know they went to Orlando to meet with the parents. So I don't know. I think there's a chance that the parents thought the best of their son, and then as the story unfolded, it became a really bad story, and now they're listening to the attorney. I don't know that. There's a slight chance. I hope that's the case, because if they're hiding their son who's a murderer, and maybe one of the attorneys that are watching can answer this, in the state of Florida, the parents cannot be held liable for helping their child. They cannot be charged with an accessory to the crime. Does that statute exist federally? And I know, Evan, we talked about it earlier. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a big question is how much are they actually going to do to be able to hide their son if that means them getting in trouble?
Right.
Because they're on the line for a lot of stuff right now, and depending on what the law says and everything like that, then that really dictates exactly what their life's going to look like. And I know there's a lot of different rumors and stuff like that going around, and I know that there was a swatting or rumors of swatting at the house earlier today, where someone called the police and said they heard gunshots, or said they saw Brian at his house or something. And as far as we know, that's not confirmed that actually happened. Yeah.
We have a question here. It says, where was Laundrie on August 31st? Perfect 10. We know as a fact that Laundrie was in Benton, Illinois, which is on his route home from Jackson Hole, Wyoming to Northport, Florida. We know as a fact that Laundrie was in Benton, Illinois, and he used Gabby Petito's debit card. We know that for sure. Jameson, the defense attorney, has a statement for us. He says this: in my experience, it is incredibly rare that guilty individuals inform their family or attorneys of their guilt. I never asked in my 44 years, and clients have never told me. That makes sense. I totally understand that. We got a question for you, Evan. It comes from Serious Fish Keeper. They're wanting to know this: as American taxpayers, do you feel The resources are best being spent searching the reserve. And what evidence do you think they have to continue the search? Now, you and I talked about this earlier. What do you think?
I think that there's an insane amount of money that's already been spent, and I think that they're going to be spending even more. And I've seen a lot of info saying that the FBI knows more than what they're letting the public know. And I don't know if that's to keep Brian kind of held down to where he's staying in one spot, or what all's going on. I'm looking at an article right now that says that they're estimating about nearly $1 million and counting for the search. And I think the big thing is he still running, or is he dead?
We have been
And I
reporting
think
on the
that
search for
that's going to
Brian.
be a big factor in the manhunt. Is if they think he's dead, then what's the point of still searching for him?
What's interesting about this, about the American taxpayers paying this, in one way, I don't think it's reasonable that they're spending $1 million, or one report said $1.2 million, because it's just one person. And another way, it is totally worth it, because when is the last time that America got behind a case like this? And I know there's been some feedback like, oh, if they weren't white, if they weren't photogenic, nobody would be talking about this. And really what it's doing, though, is shining a light on all of the missing people across the nation. I think it's really shining a light, not just on this case, but on lots of different cases. One report said the parents, if they knew, would be held liable for that $1.2 million. They would have to pay back the American people for what they spent. And I know the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, he had to make special provision in order for them to be released these resources. Here's another question.
I think that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Here's another question.
I think
from
that.
Is there a warrant for his arrest because he used her card? That's the big deal, Fifth Dimension. We didn't know whose card he was using, and I thought even for a second he could have been using his parents' cards, and they might be upset, and that's why they were in Orlando. However, we now know that he was for sure, it was confirmed by a family friend in a News Nation interview, he was for sure using Gabby Petito's debit card and her PIN number, and I know as a fact that he was using it at a gas station in Benton, Illinois. So we know as a fact. It's called, it was a warrant for using an accessory device. And basically what it was a Capital One debit card and maybe more than one Capital One debit card. And he was withdrawing funds out of her account, over $1,000 to have it in cash.
Yeah, and I know going back a little bit, we were talking about more missing people that have been showing up. And I know that once the Gabby case really blew up, people were realizing how many people were actually missing from this summer in the general area that Gabby went missing in.
Yeah, including those other two girls, which let's talk about that for a second, because people have been trying to debunk it and they're saying, no, the cases are not related. However, how on earth could a girl who's working at a store that Gabby posted a picture from, that's what I don't understand. That one girl who was murdered, was working at a store on the same exact day that Gabby posted a picture on her Instagram account. I don't understand how these two things are not connected. And
the weird thing is they're following a similar trend to the path they took right after they left. I think it was Utah, wasn't it? They found the two girls that were dead. They've had rumors of Brian in different areas and then finding bodies in those areas. So I think it's a real question of, is this more than just Gabby that happened? Are they connected? I know the police said they weren't. A lot of people don't understand why, because it happened so fast after that they said the cases weren't connected. And that just brings us back to, does the police know more than the public does? And is that just a strategy that they have?
Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking. And I don't know. I would say that they must have great intel that that he's at the Carlton Reserve. We have a question coming in. It says, if he was just a missing person, why wasn't there any civilian help with the search? I don't know the answer to that. And I will tell you that I watched an interview from Brian Itten of News Nation, and he asked an FBI agent, actually a neighbor of Brian Laundrie, came and asked an FBI agent, hey, we know the Carlton Reserve. We all have side-by-sides and four-wheelers. We're out there all the time. Can we as civilians go and help? And her response was, well, likely there's some local law enforcement that also know their way around and they can help. And I don't think that was a great answer. Evan, you and I, we love going out on the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides. And when you came to my house, for example, I mean, we found all these little hidden pathways and trails, and, you know, we had fun. I think that makes sense. Let some civilians in that they've done a background check on or whatever that they can trust. Let some civilians in that this is their home territory. I don't understand.
And the thing is it's because of the civilians that Gabby was found in the first place. Who knows if that video of the van life would have been taken where they caught the glimpse of their van. Who knows if she would have been found still? And that's a scary thing that we were running into early on this story, is that if they didn't find Brian,
yep,
they may not have found Gabby.
Yep.
And it's because of that this went viral and that people had footage of it that they were able to find Gabby.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly complex thing. Fifth Dimension says this: it's strange that they didn't put a warrant for his arrest. It seems like that would have been the most obvious, but then, yeah, we're getting Jameson with the response of she didn't report it stolen, thus no crime had taken place. And I've listened to a different defense attorney, and they were saying, like, the easier thing was, we know she's dead, so she didn't give him authorization to use that debit card. And then I think this thing that Serious Fish Keeper, I've been in serious relationships with people, and I've used their debit card and they've used my debit card. That's what I was wondering. Like, where's the line there? Like, if you're not technically married, can you not use their card? Or because she was dead, we know because of her time of death that she couldn't have done that. So I would like to know the answer to that question. Like, where is the line on using somebody's card? But we know that that's, at least right now, that is where the rule is at. And Serious Fish Keeper says, is it illegal to use common law wife's debit card? That's what we're wondering.
Yeah, I know that at least I haven't really seen anything. Have we heard very much from Gabby's parents, or are they just trying to deal with the mourning of losing their daughter?
They haven't talked much. They were much more talkative in when she was a missing person. But when they found her body, they sort of went silent. And I don't blame them for going silent on that, because at that point, they want to figure out exactly what one of these other questions are coming in. What was the cause of death? I heard it was a homicide, but had they released the how? They haven't released the how. But once that happened, everybody got silent. It's why you don't see the Petitio family on the news. You don't even see the dad on Dr. Phil and things like that. After it was ruled a homicide, no longer are they trying to raise attention, because before they're like, maybe she's out there, let's find her. Now they know that she's not alive. So what happens then? You know, and it was a homicide. There's different kinds of deaths. There's suicide. There's homicide. There's, we can't tell. There's natural causes. I think there's 5 different causes of death. They know that this was a homicide. In other words, they know that a second party human being caused the death. In other words, it's a murder, which is really, I mean, it's really a challenging thing to be dealing with that. It looks like we're losing Evan for a second. Hopefully he gets reconnected. Jameson says she uses mine and I use my wife's debit card. Well, what about if you're engaged or have been engaged, like, and you're on a 4-month-long road trip together? Where's the rule there? Serious Fish Keeper says, is it possible it was a shared card in a parent's name? That could have led to charges. We don't know the exact details of that. I would assume not. I know that whenever Gabby was in the hotel room and her dad had to send her Domino's because she was having some issues with her card, it doesn't make sense that they would be sharing a card. So I would presume that it was Gabby's card. I don't know a 22-year-old Evan, you're like 22. I don't know. Do you have your own card? I don't know a young person that doesn't have their own debit card. I would assume it was her own debit card.
I would honestly expect that since she was so independent and stuff like that, this is just allegations, but since she was so independent, she was going on her own trips. I don't know what, I know she was in the camera footage for the police. She was saying that she used to work at a juice bar and now she was starting up her own blog and stuff like that. I don't know what her financial situation was like. I know that she was trying to start YouTube and stuff like that, but I honestly don't know if she just saved up a bunch of money. I know that it's been said that Brian Laundrie comes from a family of money, and so I don't know what was going on. I think that she had her own card in some way. I don't know if her parents were putting money into the account or what though.
Yep. I don't know either. Jameson says the crux of the criminal charge is that her time of death has been ruled to the pre-use of the card. That makes total sense. So basically, we know, and they were very specific on the card use time. They said it happened August 30th. I know as a fact that it happened August 31st because I got word from the actual gas station that it happened in. And then on September 1st, and it was withdrawing money. We know as a fact he was withdrawing money from that. And so we know that puts the time of death on the 27th. If you backdate it to the fight that happened at the restaurant, that restaurant in Wyoming confirmed happened and was there. It
Yeah, there have been a couple of people that said that they've seen Brian Laundrie like slap her around or push her around and everything, and then but during the police footage, Gabby was taking all responsibility for everything. Do we think that there was some manipulation going on and Gabby was taking the blame for that stuff? Do we think that Gabby was the primary aggressor? What do we think on that?
Yeah, I think that's crazy, right? Like, if you go and watch the body cam footage, even I don't care what people were saying, it's like she took all of it on her own. Like, you knew just looking at her that she was in a bad situation. He was excited that they were pinning it on her, and then he even took it a step further. They took him to a shelter. The police did that night, which got him a hotel room. It blows my mind. But a lot of times people in those types of situations, they cover up these abusive type situations. I think that's part of the reason why people feel so compelled and drawn to this case, because we relate to Gabby. She was likable. There's things about her that I felt like I can see my own cousins in, or my own nieces in, or my own friends in. And then some of us have been in toxic relationships and we can relate to that. There's so much.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is, what if the police would have went ahead and arrested her for domestic assault or something like that? And I know that that's a lot of backlash that the police have been getting because of this. Is why wouldn't they? Right. She was obviously very upset, and she had reportedly hit him and left marks on him. So why didn't they go ahead and arrest him? And what would this have changed the outcome if they would have? Right.
And some people were speculating that Roberta Laundrie, that she herself worked as a DA. And I will say this: I did all of the research on Roberta Laundrie, and I went and researched her income because it is public, and I would like to know more information about this. She's working in Suffolk County, New York. I mean, I think that's really interesting that she's actually working in Suffolk County, New York. And this was her salary. Her salary in 2009 was $27,000. And then it rose all the way up to $50,000 in 2020. So it seems like she continued to get raises at her job, but it wasn't like super substantial. It was like,
yeah, especially for being New York, you would think that it would definitely be higher than that. And to hear that they're coming from a family of money, do we know what the husband did?
He owned a juicing service company. Okay. That they sort of shared. And so we can look at this and say in 2020, her job was office staff for Suffolk County, and her salary was $50,000. Okay, in 2020, her salary was $50,000, and so $50,000 is not a DA salary in New York City. Okay, I can tell you that right now. It just isn't. I mean, that's too low of a salary. So when we think about it and when we look at it differently, it's exactly what Perfect 10 is saying. Shane Ballin, everyone assuming. So in 2020, her annual wage as an office staff in Suffolk County was $50,000. Okay. So there we go. In my opinion, she might have worked it's possible that she worked for a day in Suffolk County, but she was not herself a DA. Okay.
Yeah, and you said that they owned a juicing business. Is it the same juicing business that Gabby was so excited to talk about to the police?
Well, Gabby worked for a juicing company in New York, in Long Island, and we know that the Laundrie family had a home in New York and also in Florida. It seems like what the Laundrie family owned was not a juicing store, but instead the actual juicing machines. Okay. They sold those and serviced those, so that's a little bit different than a juicing store. This says the sister of Brian gave an interview, which was odd to me. She stated she was unable to communicate with Brian. She didn't ask Brian to return, or if anyone knows anything to let them know. What do you think about that? I found that interesting too, that the sister had no contact with Brian. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I think that I really don't know. I think that there's more contact than people are letting to be. And I know that the FBI came out to say that they did have access to cell phones, but it wasn't like a live feed where they could track them. And so with every phone, with every text, I'm assuming they can kind of get a pinpoint, but it's not right away and stuff like that. It's not like what we see on TV shows and stuff like that. So do we think that there may be another cell phone that maybe his family had got him to where they can still communicate with him?
It's possible. It's possible that he has a burner phone, and if she was staff at a government office or DA office, she might know that. Hey, we have 110 people watching now and only 10 likes. Come on, people, please do us a favor and hit the like button. It helps us. It helps us get this out to the YouTube algorithm. If you can do us a favor and hit that like button. To those of you who was saying that he was spotted in Canada, that has been debunked. I know it was on TMZ, but TMZ is definitely a rumor mill organization. And so I hate to tell you that because I know you're fighting for him being in Canada, but I did a side-by-side of this image, and it was, I mean, the chin and everything didn't line up. And so he's not in Canada. And not only that, like what Mandy's saying, you got to have a negative test unless he snuck across the border, swam across Niagara Falls or something. He just ain't getting in. All right. He just is not getting in.
Yeah. And so I know that there's been several allegations of where he might be. Some people think there's a video that surfaced of him possibly being on a boat. They thought that maybe he was going to Cuba. Maybe he's in Alabama. Maybe he's in Canada. And the real question is where is he? Is he where the FBI is searching? Or could that just be a cover up and they actually know where he is?
You know, I want to share this story with you because People Magazine's been doing a great job of covering this, and a lot of people on YouTube are not talking about it. But this says Gabby Petito's best friend says that Brian Laundrie is capable of surviving in the wilderness. It says he lived in the Appalachians for months. All right. And this is from Rose Davis. It says Brian Laundrie, who was reportedly last seen on September 14th, is capable of surviving on his own, according to Gabby's best friend, Rose. He's out in the wilderness. I promise you, she tells people, this is not his first time living on his own in the wild. He's out there. He is. If he's alive, he's out there. He's camping out. He lived in the Appalachians by himself, it says, 4 months. And this morning, the search for Laundrie continued at the Carlton Reserve. The 23-year-old left last week for a nature hike. And then just goes on to tell more. But I totally agree. It's very possible that he is capable of surviving in the wilderness. What do you think, Evan? Because we know that he was walking barefoot. He was barefoot life in his posts. And not only was he barefoot life on a lot of his posts, but he was vegan lifestyle. He was the one who liked going outdoors.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of how long this manhunt could go on for. one, and also it gives a little reassurance that he could still be alive. Obviously, there's a lot of worry that maybe that he ended up taking his own life because of everything going on. But personally, I can't honestly see that. I think that he is somewhere in the mountains or something like that, surviving and roughing it and doing what it takes to be on the run. And I know that in the where they're searching right now, I know that there's lots of wild boars and alligators and poisonous snakes and everything like that, and it really is man versus wild. And what's the chances of him actually being able to survive that?
Yeah, I'm going to put a poll into the chat right now. I want you to answer, people in the community. Is Brian out there? Yes, he's doing well. Yes, he's out there, but he's struggling. No, he offed himself. Or no, nature got him. And so if you guys don't mind, you see that in the chat. Can you go ahead and respond? Answers are coming, floating in, Evan. And right now, 78% of people are saying, yeah, he's out there and he's alive. 74% out there and alive. Some people are saying, no, he offed himself. I don't know what the right language to use is because I don't want to get in trouble by YouTube. But Golf in America says he hiked through the Mayaka Park north of where they are searching. I would think it's super simple to do and never been seen. I think you have a good point. And some people are saying, well, what about water? I've seen those things. And Evan, you're an outdoorsman. We've seen these things where you can drink any kind of water in the most dangerous third world country. You can drink water and be safe.
Yeah. And going back on that, I think that you have a good point of he may be in that park. And I know that in the preserve, there's game cameras and everything like that. I've seen videos of where you can go online and you can see like live feed of game cameras that capture different animals and stuff like that. And I know that early on there was an alleged picture that looked kind of like Brian on a game camera. But I think it was somewhere in like Alabama or something like that. And what's the chance that maybe the FBI or someone like that saw a game camera footage that he didn't know about and is kind of having that little insight, and that's why they're searching in that area so heavily. Exactly.
You're exactly right. It's crazy. This is a crazy story that has captivated America right now. Now it's 65% alive and well, 24% yes, he's struggling, 11% no, he offed himself. I had a theory that if his parents were in on it, one of the things that he could have done was get a getaway car and park it premeditatively at the Carlton Reserve, where there's only 10 cameras in a 25,000 acre. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he bought a car off of Craigslist or something, like a cheap car off of Craigslist, parked it at the Carlton Reserve, took the Mustang through all the stoplights where they're watching him on the camera so the stories corroborate, and then on top of that went ahead and then just parked the Mustang there and got in the secondary car as a getaway car and then disappeared. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
So what do you think the next steps are for this manhunt? Do you think that they're just going to continue searching? Do you think they're going to put up do you think they're going to start stopping people that fit the description? What all do you think is going to go on to kind of get this manhunt to end?
That's an interesting question, because how many days is it until they decide to stop searching? That's the real question. Like, how many days? Jameson says he really should have made a deal for the location of the body. I actually think, a part of me thinks he thought he would get home and nobody would be looking for Gabby. Like, he would get home and then that'd be the end of it. It'd be a missing person and then he would go on from there. Clearly that's not what happened. And so instead of running, he probably could have made a deal, would have made a deal better.
Well, and Gabby's parents didn't report her missing for several days after he got back. And I think that if they would have reported her missing a lot sooner, I think that would have helped with the manhunt process.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely would have helped with the manhunt process. It sucks that she was dead on August 27th and nobody even knew about it until much later. I mean, it breaks my heart to think about. It was 11 days in until she was reported missing. I mean, that is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it really is. It made me sad the first time that I heard that of the outcome of it. I was really hoping that she was just in the wilderness somewhere, but in the back of my head, you just had to know that something bad happened, and it really is. It's a really sad situation.
Here's something I didn't think about. Although I would assume that they are now surveilling the sister, and we know that at one point the FBI came upon the sister, but she said probably in the sister's attic. The sister could be like, "Hey, I ain't heard from him," but really the whole time, she's been the one who's been keeping them in the loop. He's probably alive, but probably knows what's going on from his parents, so he's struggling. They were and are probably hoping this would blow over. I mean, that's a point that we are thinking of, right? Here's another one that Claire says, I agree with the car driving away. He's not in the reserve, probably down to Key West, get out of the country. Is it possible if he's in the reserve, like somebody mentioned earlier, that an alligator got him and there's no way to find his body, just chomp the whole thing down? I mean, because right now, I mean, they're searching this reserve like pretty extensively. I don't know where he could be hiding at in this reserve.
Well, didn't they end up bringing in dive teams to search a specific area of large body of water that in case something like that happened? Or I know there was rumors going around of that.
They had a dive team in, and they said that's standard protocol when they're searching such a swampy area at that time. He could be watching our live stream right now. It's up to 57% saying alive and well, 30% saying struggling. So 87% of people think he's alive. Basically, everybody at this point is saying that he's alive. Okay. Someone says he's not in that grimy swamp. I don't know, probably not. It says the gator would drag you under a stump and let you rot before they eat you. See, I don't know that much about gators. Where I live in Illinois, they don't have gators.
Yeah, and I think that's a good statement to make. Is he knows more, where he knows enough about the wilderness not to go into dangerous areas,
right?
And so I just don't know why they're spending so much time in that in the Everglades if they didn't think he was there.
Shauna, this is an interesting point. Social media painted him as a picture of someone who appears to be an avid outdoorsman, but the likeliness of him surviving long-term without outside resource is very slim, unless he was preparing for it. Because when I read a story about him, where one of the books that he was seen reading is about a guy who murders a few women and leaves them in the wilderness and then survives on the run in the wilderness on his own. The best friend Rose said that he had a trial a couple months before they went on this trip where Brian went to the Appalachian Mountains and survived for a few months on his own in the wilderness. We know that he was vegan, so he doesn't I need a lot of meat to survive. I don't even know how to survive without meat. He can probably survive off of flowers and stuff. He probably knows how to do all that stuff. Just whatever's there. And on top of that, he might have brought some supplies with him that would get him through until he can figure out a secondary plan. So there's a point to it. I don't think the average person could survive. I think a vegan that loved being in the outdoors, it definitely could survive. And then Garrett makes a good point. He also read The Revenant, a major survival story. He was definitely into it. Here's a thing from Baritone 90. If you report on an adult missing, typically they have to wait a few days to make it official. This is to make sure the adult has not gone off on their own volition. That's true. That's the same thing with kids too, to just make sure they don't run off. I mean, it's probably a shorter time for kids. Let's see what Chelsea says. Chelsea is saying he would never survive in that swamp. He's gone somewhere else where it's easier to survive and it isn't 75% underwater. What do you think, Evan? This is his home turf.
Yeah, he knows the country like the back of his hand. I think that it's been planned. I think that there's more to the story than we actually know. I think that to get those answers, he's gonna have to say it, because there's so much to the story, and I don't think that I think it's going to shock a lot of people when they hear the real outcome of it.
Yep. Absolutely, absolutely. And I have an issue with my YouTube on that they're sending me the PIN number and they sent it to a previous address, so I'm not able to do the join or the sticker thing. But we would appreciate it if you guys would consider leaving us a tip, because this is our first live stream, and Evan and I are old pals, and we got to talking about this, and we want to continue doing these live streams. If you could consider giving us a tip, we would love it. You don't have to. Obviously, it's free. And something else you could do that's free is just hit the like button. Hitting the like button is super helpful for us. Okay, we got another comment from JK. JK says, the police goal, they look so hard to place wasting taxpayers' money. That's a big theory that a lot of people have. He could have gone to the Pacific Northwest. I mean, that's definitely true. And then here's another comment. They say, I work in the Everglades. There's way too many pythons. That's another thing we haven't talked about. Not just alligators. There are pythons out there.
Yeah, and if you know anything about snakes, they can blend into anything, and that's why they are so dangerous. Is especially to people, is because they can't see them coming. They can't see them coming. They can see you before you can see them, and with the python, they have no remorse, and once you get tied up with one, there's really no getting out. And I see that comment that was made, and I kind of thought about that earlier. There was signs from one of the videos where they actually saw Gabby's van and what looked like to be ultrasound pictures. I don't think it was confirmed or anything like that yet. But what's the possibility of Gabby being pregnant, and what could that be the reason that this happened?
Yep. And we don't know if she was pregnant. The reasons why people thought that she was pregnant was because, number one, this sonogram picture, which I think they debunked. I think they on pieces of wood in that area so that people won't use that as firewood. So I think they debunked the fact that that was possibly something that they were using for a sonogram. But then the second thing was, when you went to Gabby's Pinterest, it's been a while, but she had a lot of different pins on there about having a baby. So she had two basically boards, and one of them was about baby. So it's possible that she was pregnant, although I doubt it that nobody around her would know. Okay, here's another thing. He left much earlier in the month. They did the best to allow people to think he was there. That's what a lot of people think. We have no reason not to think that, but that is just one theory. Jamie, thanks for the comment. It says, my husband welcomed you all to our dinner table. Great. Hey, everybody at the dinner table.
Thanks for dinner.
Here's another thing. I feel like possibly she told him that they were going to leave him and there could be a reason, but overall it's clear. It's possible that she had enough of his garbage. He was clearly an abuser. He was clearly a terrible, terrible person, right? So it's definitely possible that she said, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And if he was a narcissist, couldn't handle it and just decided to kill her. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that going back to the video footage with the police interaction, I think that there was definitely a planned story before they got pulled over, if they ever did get pulled over. And that's the scary thing about that relationship is it really made Gabby look like she was the primary aggressor, and that Brian was the one that was getting abused and stuff like that. And just from the camera footage and stuff like that, I said that I thought that there's a possibility that she could show her emotions and anxiety through physical abuse, where he may have showed it as mentally and emotionally abusive. And I think that really tears down people and tears down relationships. And I actually saw a video of that someone put out on TikTok that said that they were talking to their wife about the story, and their wife said made the comment that the husband used to be the exact same way, where he would lose his temperament and stuff like that, and that she never thought that he would do it, but she knew he was capable of doing it. Yep. That's the real scary thing about relationships, is that there's a lot more relationships than just Gabby's, and that's why I think that a lot of people are relating to this story.
Absolutely. This is a good comment from Erica. She says, I heard Brian's parents had another camper. They came home with a new one that attaches to their red truck. Maybe Brian took the old camper. I think this is a possibility. In fact, I went on Popcorn Planet, who has a great channel himself. I went live with Popcorn Planet yesterday, and I said the same thing. I said, no, the neighbors next door said they already had a camper, and yet now they have the second camper. Why is nobody talking about the secondary camper? They have another camper. Where is this camper at? Somebody said the Laundrie family has 4 houses. It's definitely possible they have 2, because the mother works in Suffolk County, New York, and Long Island, New York, and they have this other home in Florida, which it's not uncommon. I have plenty of friends who have houses in Kentucky on the lake and have houses in Florida on the beach. So it's not uncommon for people to have secondary houses. But if they have more than one house or more than one location, it's likely they have land, and even land that is in a trust from something they inherited. And that's where this other camper's at. It's off grid. I mean, it's like they were preparing for this. Somebody, and maybe the FBI is looking into it. You'd assume they are. Somebody needs to figure out, where is this other camper at? Okay, we need to find out, where is this other camper at?
Going off of that, the second part of the question about the new life he took with the money, we know that he took money from Gabby, but do we know if his parents had a big withdrawal before he went missing and stuff like that? Do we know if his parents maybe gave him some money to help him survive?
Yep. These are great points. Okay. Here we go. I live in Suffolk County, Chelsea says, about 15 minutes from the parents' home. It's eerie thinking this could happen to someone so close. I know, it is eerie. It's eerie. My cousin Rachel, she might be watching right now. Her and her husband and their kids went on a road trip this summer, and they went to all of the same places that Gabby was at. They went to the Grand Tetons, and they went to Wyoming, and it was just creeping her out. She was like, we were at all of the same places that these people were at. Here's a good one. Brian killed these women. Gabby couldn't take it. Why would she be in the middle of nowhere? That makes a whole lot of sense.
We've seen a lot of these allegations, and they followed the same path, and it's really bizarre that that the 2 women went missing the same time that they were in that location, and now that there's sightings of Brian and there's bodies behind him. It's just like there's more to the story than just the Gabby situation.
Sean is saying in the local stations, they're saying keep a lookout for Brian. I mean, that makes sense. They're not saying that where I live, and they should be, because he was spotted on August 31st at a gas station in my town where I live at in Illinois. It's confirmed that he made a purchase in Illinois, and they said he withdrawed money. I went and talked to the manager myself today because I wanted to get to the bottom of it. I just went in there and said, hey, is this where Brian Laundrie was at? And she said, oh, yep, definitely he was here. And she said he came in and she didn't, and he used her debit card and he withdrew some money, and that is the charge that they have a warrant out for right now. Hey, if you're watching, do me a favor. Can you hit the like button? It's our first stream ever talking about this. If you don't mind, hit the subscribe button, because we don't have very many subscribers. It's our first time ever doing a live on this nature. Usually our content is a faith-based content, Christian content. It's our first time ever talking about this type of subject, but I really felt like we were supposed to do that tonight. And so I texted Evan earlier. I said, hey, can you go on live tonight around 9 p.m.? And he said, yes, he was down for it. And we appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, keep the comments coming. What about the camper that saw him in the woods? I don't know about this one, Jonna. There's been so many sightings, and I kind of feel bad for any bald, skinny person under 40 in America right now, because they're being accused of being Brian. For the sake of the family, we need to stay on track with the facts. That's exactly what I'm saying, Wada. I'm saying, listen, we got to be on track with what are the facts, and we need to steer too far away from being in the middle of speculation. What are the facts? We know that a homicide took place at the end of August of Gabby Petito. We know she was on a trip with Brian Laundrie. Brian Laundrie returned home to Florida from Wyoming with her van. He was home, people saw him, and then he became a missing person. Ironically, the day that she became a missing person, and what turned out to be a homicide of her ended up becoming a getaway for him. And I don't think that he thought he was going to get caught, and he took off. Timothy says he's dead. I don't think so. Tracy says, can we talk about the books he was reading? From a faith-based perspective, let's just go to Brian's Instagram, because as we scroll through his Instagram, and if we were to take an audit of his Instagram, it's pretty scary, in my opinion. What was his Instagram? Bizarre Designs?
Yeah, something like that.
Bizarre _designs _ right?
Yeah, and speaking of that Instagram, I know that there's some allegations, and I don't think that's it. I think there's some allegations and stuff like that about him accidentally following someone and then unfollowing them. Where maybe he has access to his Instagram, and there's allegations that he went live on accident and stuff like that. And in that case, then he wouldn't necessarily be in the middle of nowhere where he didn't have cell phone service and roughing it and stuff like that. He may actually be in a well-known area that he's just in someone's basement trying to hide out.
That's a good point. Do I need to log in? It's telling me I need to log in order to look at this. I have a lot of different accounts. Just log in. Oh, I don't even know my password. Maybe I'll log into this account. So from a faith-based perspective, I'll say this about his Instagram post. The stuff that he was drawing, in my opinion, was definitely not normal. It's not normal. I don't care if it is a movie. It's not normal to be obsessed with drawing pictures of Satan or Hellboy or whoever that is. Like, to me, that is just not normal. Some people might say, well, it's art or it's something in popular culture. I don't care what it is. It's not, in my opinion, normal to be drawing that type of stuff in the frequency in which he's drawing it, in my opinion. And you might disagree with me. I don't know. Go ahead and disagree with me. Whoever says it's clickbait, this is not clickbait. We were sharing real information about what's happening. But in my opinion, this is not appropriate stuff. But we're going to try to look at some of the books that he was reading. Evan, do you have anything to say about his artwork?
I know that a lot of people are debunking the books he was reading and debunking the pictures and thinking that maybe he was actually living in his own story and trying to follow some of the books he was reading and stuff like that. And it really is disturbing whenever you start looking at that stuff and realize that maybe this could have went on longer than just an impulsive action.
Grizzly Books, True Crime, does a great job breaking down the books that Brian Laundrie was reading. And as she talks about it, I mean, she goes into all of the details about how these books were based on murders that took place, multiple murders taking place in these books, and then the guy like literally trying to get away. It's a serial killer book. Maybe I'll put it on the screen for you so we can read it together. Gabby Petito's fiance, Brian Laundrie, reading book about serial killer who goes on road trip after wife dies months before his appearance. This, to me, is incredible. It's a book about missing women. If we talk about the other two people who were murdered, it's multiple missing women, and it's a serial killer who goes on a murder spree after his wife dies. Social media detectives, I guess that's what they're calling us, are scouting Laundrie's Instagram for clues. And I want to say this because I had a conversation with multiple leaders. In fact, a lot of people that I'm in friendships with work as, they work in detective fields and are staff sergeants of state police and things like that. They're saying all these little clues are helpful. It might not be that weird to have one thing, but when you add them all up, they're all helpful. And I don't think it's normal in a town of 5,000, which Moab, Utah is, that multiple people would be murdered at the same time. I just don't think it's normal.
Yeah, and I see some really good comments that are going on right now. And that one being, do you think he killed the lesbian couple? And do you think that there is more pieces to the story than just that? And if so, then do you think it is because of the books he was reading, or do you think that it's just there's some deeper stuff than just that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he didn't kill the lesbian couple, then there's definitely a connection, and we need to figure out what that connection is. Okay. It says, does anyone know why Brian Laundrie was hitchhiking on the 29th? I spoke with a law enforcement official about this, and the assumption is that he was doing this because he wanted to create an alibi. In other words, he could say, well, I wasn't there whenever this supposed murder took place. I was hitchhiking with his people. See, here's my time and date. And so he offered them $200 as a way that they would remember it. Like, because that's a really strange amount of money for somebody to drive them, 10 miles.
Yeah, and going off that, do we think that maybe there was someone else involved in the homicide?
Yeah.
I know that
very likely.
I know that Gabby's friend went and said that she had her birthday a few days before, and Gabby just totally blew her off, and she knew that wasn't normal, and they were planning on meeting up and everything like that. So obviously that's a red flag in the whole story. But is it possible that there could be another party involved in the killing to kind of that was maybe more premeditative, and Brian could have not entirely been involved in the killing, but it was kind of a cover-up?
Yeah, I mean, the Southpaw, to answer your question, the last time that we know that they were seen was at that restaurant in Jackson Hole, which I believe was on the 27th. There are multiple reports, and the dad corroborates that it could be true because Gabby was staying at the Fairfield Inn by the Salt Lake City airport, the Fairfield Inn, that Brian went home for a few days, and no one understands or can make sense of that. Why would Brian go home for a few days and leave? Listen, you should never leave a 22-year-old in a state by herself. I do not understand it, okay? I do not understand why he would leave her alone. Did Gabby have a stalker? Maybe someone watching and following Gabby's live stream could have tracked her location and killed her. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I think maybe that could have been a possibility. I know that she was really trying to fully pursue the social media platforms, and whether it was blogging or YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And I know that she was really proud of that, and throughout that the police interactions, you could tell how proud she was of that. And I think that there could be a possibility that maybe she had a stalker, but that really doesn't make sense of why Brian would be running from the situation if it was totally off of him, and could have been the stalker. I do see Becca Calloway commented. I don't know if you see that comment, Tyler.
I don't see it, but you can go ahead and talk about it.
They found evidence of a fire pit near her body. I think they were choosing and setting up a campsite, and they got in an argument and it was accidental. And I think that could be totally right. I think it wasn't necessarily on purpose. Maybe they just got in an argument, and he finally he lost his temper, and it was strictly accidental, and it just escalated too much, and he didn't know what to do whenever it happened, and he chose to run away from the situation.
There are too many reports of him being aggressive, violent towards her, in my opinion. Way too many, because think about it. He was saying things like, basically pinning it all on her when they got stopped. I was trying to drive, she scratched my face with her iPhone or whatever. And it's like, I don't think that little petite girl, and her last name's Petito, I don't think that little petite girl has it in to be the aggressor in this situation. He was seen slapping her. There's a police 911 call, all right? He was seen in a restaurant throwing a humongous fight with the hostess, with her. He has the history of aggression. She has a history of love and compassion for people, okay?
Yeah. And I think that's why, like we talked about earlier, that's why so many people are obsessed with this story, is because, one, it's relatable, and two, she was just so likable. She looks like such a sweet girl that anyone could love, and she was living her dream of traveling across the country and blogging and doing all this stuff. And she was very passionate about the stuff that she was starting. She was passionate about her previous work, and you could hear that in her voice during the police interactions. And the fact that this did happen, and she had so much excitement towards the thing she was doing, it definitely puts fault towards Brian, whether it's accidental or not. There's a reason that this all happened, and like that comment says, he's going to get caught soon. I think that there's more known than just what the public knows. I think that police department has a good idea of where he is, and I think that they're trying to keep that on the secret until they can finally arrest him. And that arrest warrant that came out just recently, that's a big factor in the process of arresting him, because now that they have a warrant for his arrest, they can arrest him. And I think that may have been the reason that they were waiting so long, is so they could have a reason to detain him and arrest him, besides just the fact that he was a person of interest.
Yeah, those are all great points. Lori says, thank you for those great points. Hey, if you're watching, this is our first ever live stream about this topic. Could you do us a favor? Hit the like button. That helps get us in the algorithm. And then also hit the subscribe button if you're feeling super generous and you want to leave a tip. If you leave a tip of $50 or we'll give you you can join us on screen. If you want to do a call in, we'll take a call in. If you do $20 or more, just as a way to help allow us to be able to do this again and more. Okay, here's another comment. It says his parents got him out on that little camping trip. That's the common theme that's happening on. Now, I want to play this video from Brian Inton because it's a short video, and he's done a great job of sharing the details of this.
The manhunt is on tonight. We know that Brian Laundrie's parents are still inside this house behind me, and you mentioned it. We have confirmed today, according to the parents, when Brian Laundrie left the last time he was seen, they say he did not have his cell phone and he did not have his wallet. As the manhunt intensifies for Brian Laundrie, memorials are popping up from Utah to Florida to New York, where Noreen Gibbons is remembering Gabby Petito. Gabby was like family.
Gabby's like a granddaughter to me. I loved her. She was a bright, shining star, you know. Now she is a star.
Noreen says Gabby and Brian were planning to wrap up their cross-country road trip at her house in Portland. Now Noreen is in New York for Gabby's memorial on Sunday.
I don't know if I want him to be dead or if I want him to be alive to face the consequences, you know. I loved him, and I love Gabby.
It's now day 6 of the search for Brian Laundrie at this wildlife reserve in Florida. Today, police focused on a different part of the 24,000-acre swamp. The FBI says Laundrie's warrant for big fraud connected to a debit card he used after Gabby disappeared.
Well, the warrant doesn't change anything for us. We're working as hard to find him now as we did on day 1. This is wearing on everyone. Everybody has a level of stress. Everybody has the drive, and that's really what's carrying us through.
And Brian, something unexpected happened this afternoon when police surrounded the house.
Yeah, Rutabaga, came out of nowhere, 6:45 tonight. Police showed up, many of them. Some went to the front door, some went to the back of the Laundrie house. At first, we didn't know what was going on. Well, it turns out we later learned from detectives there was a report of gunshots in the area. It turned out to be an unconfirmed report.
And Brian, that woman who was like a grandmother to Gabby in your story, did she ever see any warning signs with Brian Laundrie?
Yeah, this was interesting. Like so many other people that we have talked to who were close to Gabby and Brian, she said she saw no warning signs at all. She thought they were a happy couple, and she was very, very close to them. Listen to what she said.
I tried to rack my brain around Brian, and I never saw anything that gave me a feeling that anything was off, you know. What you see on her videos, that's her. You know, they talk about mental health and all that stuff. That's Gabby, that bright, smiling, you know.
Hard to imagine what she is going through right now, what Gabby's family, what they're all going through.
So what do you think about that comment on the screen right now? It says, I think his parents took him, dropped him somewhere during the camping trip. They just needed to buy a camper then, huh? That's a great point.
I think we talked about that a little bit earlier, that about the getaway car, and that they may have just dropped him somewhere and said good luck. They continued on with their trip, or maybe they just really went on a camping trip and he just took off one night. Just from the picture of the camper, though, you wouldn't think that would be a camper that a mom and dad would take with their 20-something-year-old son. And that is kind of a red flag. And we know that they took all the vehicles from the house and did DNA testing and everything like that on it. And so I'm really wondering what they found, if they found evidence of Brian in those vehicles, if they found evidence of more people than what's in the story now in those vehicles.
Yep.
I think in the next coming days that we're going to really hear about the debunking of this whole situation.
I haven't heard about the Laundrie family having large withdrawals. Has that been debunked, or has that been proven? And if you have a link to that, then go ahead and send it to me. I know about the other card purchases that Brian Laundrie made because he made it at a gas station in the city in which I live. And I went down to the gas station and I confirmed it that on August 31st, Brian Laundrie was there, and he made a purchase. He made a purchase and he withdrawed money, and it equaled out to over $1,000. Okay. Here's another comment. It says, on photos show one flip-flop where she was digging in those trees, a sonogram along. We talked about this earlier. The sonogram thing has been disproven. That was actually a sticker from the Park Service saying, do not burn this log. And so we know that wasn't a sonogram. Doesn't mean she wasn't pregnant, but nobody in the family has said that she was pregnant, and she wouldn't have been far enough along in order to have sonograms at that point without anybody knowing. We don't know about the flip-flops. Again, that's all just speculation. We want to, at the rate we're in right now, what we want to do is stick with facts. So we want to help. Okay. Do we know the real date of the camping trip? Labor Day weekend makes sense. The neighbor didn't remember. See, the neighbor doesn't know. We don't know the exact dates, but I would say that, it's sort of like Kim saying there's no real answers. What we know is that they prepared to go on a camping trip. They went on that camping trip, and then whenever they came back, it was big issues.
Yeah, and let's kind of talk about the fact that the FBI never laid eyes on Brian Laundrie at the beginning, and it was several days later that the family said, "Oh, he went on a hike and went missing." And then it was several days later after that the neighbors came out and said, "Oh, we saw them all go camping, but we didn't see them come back." So there's a lot of
so basically it was a false alarm
about all that, and I think that's that's just really weird coming from the family. There's what was actually confirmed. That's what we really need to find out, and that's what there's so many different allegations and stuff like that going on. Was Brian Laundrie even in Florida? We know that the neighbor saw him, but the FBI never laid eyes on him, and the fact that they said that he ran away several days after they even reported it is kind of bizarre.
Yep. So Thomas is saying, I don't know a place that lets you take out $1,000 at a gas station. So the gas station itself, no. The ATM inside of the gas station, yes, up to $800 at least for my card. So it totals $1,000 at multiple places. Somebody else was saying, how much money does it take to get to Wyoming to Florida? Not that much, less than $300 on fuel, and he's just having to stop a few times. Fuel in Illinois is more expensive than Missouri and other places that he was driving through. But he was clearly taking money out to that point because he wanted to use it for other circumstances. Clearly, I think he thought potentially he was going to have to be on the run. I think potentially he was having money issues. She had more money in her account, and he wanted her money. Why aren't Brian's parents helping to find their son with law enforcement? We don't know if they are or they're not. their lawyers doing their job and having them stay quiet. You know, that's what we know. And so they might be meeting with FBI. They might be telling FBI everything they know, and they might be being completely honest about it. Keep in mind, it was 1,000 or more, but it was on 2 different cards. Most have a daily limit of 800. That's what I was saying. So he could have used 2 cards to cover 1,000. We know as a fact that it was Gabby Petito's card and PIN number, in which he did not have the right to use because she couldn't have gave him permission to use it because she was dead. Okay, and I know as a fact it was her card because I asked the gas station in which he used it. In fact, it's the one that they were citing in the cases from the FBI, and the FBI went there and had the conversation. Does anyone think the FBI has him in hiding? My gut says not to trust the cop that sent Gabby on her way. Maybe the cop killed the 2 women, and he said he knew the area well. Just saying. I don't think so, Kim. That's massive speculation. However, that one police officer, not the one wearing the body cam. I thought the one that was wearing the body cam did the best he could given the circumstances. I think he was calm. He tried to diffuse the situation. He gave Gabby an opportunity to let out anything that she was withholding. But unfortunately, I felt like that other police officer was using it as an opportunity to talk about his own toxic situation and was maybe more self-centered, you know, than focusing on it. But Evan, did you hear the report about the female police officer that was there?
No, not.
She came out with a statement that said whenever she was in the vehicle alone with Gabby, that she made the statement that this is a very toxic relationship. You need to get out of it. And so I read that on a news site, a statement from her that said that she was urging Gabby to leave the relationship because it was toxic.
And so you mentioned the gas station, him taking money at the gas station. Is in your community, has there been other sightings of Brian? Have they seen the van? Have people gone back and checked video cameras and stuff like that?
No, and it's a solid drive from where I live to Florida, and we know that he was at that gas station on August 31st. Again, that's confirmed, and he went from where I live all the way down to Florida, and the tags on his license plates were caught on September 1st, and so we know all that as a fact. And so honestly, it's just he stopped at that gas station because it's right off of the interstate.
And like we talked about, all these confirmed sightings and stuff like that, that's just painting the picture for a timeline, painting a picture for the path he took of when everything could have went down. And like Tyler mentioned earlier, all of these little pieces of information that that people are getting off of social media, that's all so helpful to the police. And you may not, the police may not say it directly, but all this little information's giving the insight that they need to get on the path that they need to be on. They
actually did say it directly. I'm going to play this video from earlier because people weren't on when we played it, but I actually went to the gas station that Brian Laundrie made a purchase from on August 31st and talked to the manager. I recorded the conversation, but I don't feel comfortable using her on there. But I said what she says in this video, and I want to play it. And Evan, can you give some feedback whenever this video?
I think we...
Information surrounding Brian Laundrie's return home.
Breaking news.
New information surrounding Brian Laundrie's return home to Northport, Florida from Jackson Hole, Wyoming was released today. A local convenience store clerk at the Casey's General Store in Benton, Illinois, confirmed that Laundrie stopped in on August 31st. A family friend of Gabby Petito confirmed during a News Nation interview that Laundrie was in fact using Petito's debit card. This adds one more detail in the manhunt for Laundrie, who we know entered Florida shortly after on September 1st. So we know on August 31st that Brian Laundrie was spotted using Gabby Petito's debit card in Benton, Illinois, and then shortly after had returned home to Northport, Florida. On September 11th, Petito was reported missing, and then on September 14th, Petito's family was begging Laundrie to help, and a search warrant was executed for the van. On September 15th, Laundrie was named a person of interest. So Brian Laundrie would have pulled off of this interstate intersection right here and made a right
at this stoplight and would have entered his way into this Casey's General Store, which locals officials are saying is the gas station in which Brian Laundrie's information was found using Gabby Petito debit card and PIN number. That's one. It says, how long is it from Illinois to Florida? That's one of the things I was saying earlier. It's a long trek from. It's like at least 12 hours.
Earlier tonight, we saw some police activity near the.
Yeah, I see some really good comments of ideas of where he may be. They think that he could be in a different country. He could be in the run in Florida. He could be, I see one in Alabama. There's really just no telling.
Are there several roads that go into it, or is there?
And he really is, like Perfect 10 said, he's in incognito, and that's the scary part is if there is more to the story, then what's to say that he's not continuing his actions, and with someone that has shown his actions to be completely, I wouldn't say impulsive, but he's been acting in an impulsive way, it seems like, and that really concerns me for the people around him.
Absolutely. He could be by himself. And do we really think the sister doesn't know anything? There's so many questions. I have so many questions. She says this: do you think that Brian will show up to Gabby's funeral? That's an interesting thing that I did not consider.
Well, and so we know that they've had the autopsy and stuff like that, and they won't necessarily release the full report, just mainly because of the privacy of the family. They're going through so much right now, and do we know of what that looks like for like a funeral? To me, it's very, very sad that one, it happened in this way, and two, we were not able to give her the memorial that she deserves.
I feel bad for them. They're opening it to the public, and I would assume that it's going to be swamped with people that don't even know him. They probably are going to have their own private thing. I would say before. As a pastor, I work as a pastor. I deal with funerals a lot, and a lot of times whenever high-profile people have passed away, we have a funeral service, a private one that we don't tell anybody about ahead of time. And I've officiated so many of those that we then plan for something that is public, and I assume that that's probably what's happening. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian finds a way to sneak himself into the funeral. I don't think he's going to go dressed as himself, but I mean, if he is the kind of guy that some people have painted him out to be, and we're not saying he is, he might be completely innocent. But if he's not innocent, I would not be surprised. Okay. It says it's only a memorial for the public, and so I guess it's just people coming in and out. Yeah, wow. It says he considered her a liability, not an asset. Wow. What do you think about this next comment, Evan?
People keep assuming that he managed to survive and stay low. He's lucky, and his parents are pointing the feds in the wrong direction. I believe that the parents have more to do with it than they think, but I also believe that the FBI knows more than the parents think. And so I think that it's a full circle. We literally have some of the best people on this case, and I think that they know more than what they're letting on to believe. And I don't know if, like I said earlier, I don't know if it's a cover up or what, but yeah, I think that the parents are definitely trying to throw a curveball in the whole thing, and yeah.
I think it seems like that's likely what's happening here. Hey, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to post in the comments our PayPal account if you would consider giving us or donating to us on PayPal, because our super chat's not working. The PIN number got lost in the mail with YouTube, unfortunately, but we appreciate everybody watching. And do us a favor too, can you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button? It's our first time going live. Would anybody like to continue to see us go live Is there anybody that wants to see us to continue to go live? Comment if you want us to do another live video tomorrow when there's more information, and maybe on Sunday. I'm out of commission on Sundays. I don't do things like this on Sundays, but maybe even on Monday as more information develops. If you are liking our live stream, let us know. We would be glad to do more of it. Here's a comment from Karen. She says, I think her stepfather would kick his butt and call the cops. The stepfather actually went to Wyoming and was a part of the search. And it says that if you look at the picture of the cross where Gabby, her body was found, it says that her stepfather is the one who created that cross.
Yeah, and I think that that was really important to him, that he had some closure for him and his family, even though it's not really the outcome that anyone wanted. But yeah, I believe that I would definitely be scared to interact with his stepfather before the police got him. If that ever was in the situation of that, I would not want to be in the path of the stepfather for sure.
Absolutely. Hey, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It says there were 2 crosses, and I think that's telling that a lot of people haven't paid attention to that, Wishing Bee, and I'm glad that you did. I noticed that there were 2 crosses because there was a guy who went out there who lives in that area where the dispersed camping was at, and he noticed 2 crosses. And what he said about it was that likely her body was separated into 2 different places. And so that's why there were 2 crosses. And I think that's heartbreaking to think that they found, because when they talked about it, they said they didn't find a body, they found remains. And she had been there for almost 3 weeks. Yeah. And it was cold at night, and it was hot during the day, and it had stormed, and there's bears out there.
Yeah, and I see a comment from Nicole Parrish right now that says Gabby's mom was a vice president of a search and rescue agency.
I don't know does she have, can you send that to us? If you can send that to us, just send it. We have an email called press@tylerfeller.com. If you have articles like that, can you send them to press@tylerfeller.com? And what that does is that enables us to verify some of that stuff. And so has Evan, we've been following this very in depth. There's not many details about this that we don't know. And that's the first I've heard of that. I researched the mom. We know the mom and dad jointly own a juicing services company, and we know that the mom was an employee of Suffolk County, where her income was between $25,000 and $32,000 most of the time, but most recently her income was $50,000. That's not a DA salary. It's possible she worked for the DA, but that is not a DA salary. Okay, and so, anyways, if you have things like we're talking about need to be verified, send them to press@tylerfeller.com. John Walsh slipped and said she was beat to death. John Walsh, who is America's trusted voice when it comes to this kind of thing, he makes no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He says without a shadow of a doubt, as does Nancy Grace, that Gabby was murdered by Brian.
Yeah, I think that's what the path everyone's leaning towards right now, is that it was almost 100% him, and whether it was accidental or not, it's for us to throw our theories out there. But yeah, I think that for most of us, I think that it's pretty certain that Brian was the reason that she died.
I think this is an interesting comment from Nathan. For those of you watching, I work as a pastor, so I'm looking at all this from a spiritual lens, and that's one of the things that I hate most. Is I wish I would have had an opportunity to share the gospel with both of them. But he says the name Moab is a biblical name for a land just short of the promised land. That is totally true. And in fact, tonight I was teaching in our junior high ministry from Judges chapter 3, where the Moabites have taken over land of the Israelites, the promised land that God had given them. And the Moabites were definitely an enemy of the Israelites. And there was a king named Eglon, which Ehud was a secret agent, took care of. And then God gave the Moabites possession back to the Israelites. And so there's some spiritual implications deeper than all of us know to some of this. And I think some people might not think like that. I definitely think everything through a spiritual lens, and I think about some of the stuff that Brian was involved with reading and drawing, and I think there's a spiritual component. Here's a comment from Mo Roma. It says, when they're working under the tent at the site, one of the reporters said some of them were on the side of the creek and made across. There were people in that camping area. It says, here's another one. There has been several murders in Appalachian Trail the last several years from Georgia to North Carolina.
Do we know when Brian went on that month or that really long camping trip where he was in the Appalachians?
It doesn't say a specific date. She just said that, I mean, it had to have been within the last 18 months because Gabby hadn't lived in Florida with Brian for that long, and Rose was the one who was telling that story. Rose said they met on an app where you find friends, and she said she sent Rose a message saying, "Hey, I want to be your friend." And really, Rose was only Gabby's only friend in Florida. Gabby was living for the past year in Brian's house, so it was recently for that to have taken place because it was inside of the time span of Gabby's relationship with Rose, which is in the past 18 months.
Yeah, and I see a lot of comments. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, and yet this is breaking light. And I think a lot of it's because of how fast the police department went to social media, went to Twitter, and it really blew up from there. And like we talked about, a lot of people are relating to it. A lot of people are just invested in it. And the social media is a big reason for the outcome of this investigation so far.
I would like to take a call. I don't know how to do that the best way because I don't want to just put it out here for everybody. If you're interested in being on a call and you can give us a tip, any amount to have on call tip here, or I sent my PayPal earlier, you can tip on the PayPal, and then what we'll do is we'll send you the number to call, the Google Voice number, and then we'll attach the Google Voice to this stream where people can hear you. But we'd love to add somebody to this call if you're interested in being part of it. Here's another comment. It says, I have a feeling that Gabby and Brian Laundrie met the girl who worked at the Moonflower. I have that same theory, but let's see what you say about it. And Brian Laundrie has something to do with their murder too. I think that these things can be connected. What are the chances that in a town of 5,000 people that a lady who's working at a store called Moonflower that was visited by Gabby the same day that one of the girls was working there, then she disappears right after that, and then they all end up murdered? For me, I'm just saying it seems a little too fishy. Okay,
he's definitely leaving a trail behind him, and I think that's really suspicious. And you guys can let us know what you think about the police saying that is not related. They said that right off the bat. What do you guys think about that?
We have comments saying they're not related, they're not related, they're not related. But we got one. Thank you, Teresa. Suspicious.
Yep.
Wow. Well, you guys are doing a great job. Do you have any questions you want us to answer? Again, we're really well versed in this. Yeah, another thing was they were all at the same bar on the 13th. I find that incredibly strange. Incredibly strange that they were all at the same bar on the 13th.
Yeah, and I think that some key information, and maybe it's already out there, is did they have any interactions at the bar? Is there camera footage at the bar? Is there anything that we can do to see if they had any contact together?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question, and I saw a police officer address this earlier, and I'll play the video. But Evan, go ahead and answer that question while I'm finding the video.
Yeah, that's a point that I keep coming back to is there's so many different creatures and stuff like that in the reserve. What are the chances of him being alive? There's pythons, there's wild aggressive boars, there's alligators, and if the FBI didn't think that he was in there, why are they searching it so aggressively? And we've seen a lot of footage from helicopters and stuff like that of them flying over religiously over the reserve and hoping to capture something. And if you look at that footage, it's really thick. It's really hard to see anything. And Just the fact that they're bringing in search teams and search dogs and everything else to try to find this guy, and spending millions of dollars on resources of trying to find this guy. I can't imagine him being in there, and if he was, I can't imagine him being alive, just because how everything just blends in, and then just one bad step and you're dead. Like someone mentioned earlier, there's pythons and everything like that, and if you get tied up with one of those, you're not getting let out, and they really have no remorse.
Mike says he thinks they're looking for evidence.
Yeah, I was reading an article earlier, and it was talking about how wet it was. You could go in about a mile, and then it was just water everywhere. So I know that is slowing down the process of where he may be.
Let's play this video from Inside Edition, and they answer the question, where could Laundrie be hiding out? And if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. If you want to tip us or send us a PayPal, that's super helpful.
Petito's fiance is now nationwide with reported sightings thousands of miles from the Florida swampland. A homeowner in Fort Worth posted this Ring camera video of a porch pirate taking a package from his doorway. He's wearing a shirt that says official party starter. Could this be Bryant? The post says. Looks eerily similar. And a flight attendant posted this photo of a man who bears a striking resemblance to Laundrie outside a hotel in Toronto.
I noticed this guy was getting flustered walking out of a hotel. He got back into his car and drove off with another guy.
Authorities are still searching the vast alligator-infested swamp where Laundrie's parents say he went hiking on September 14th. But investigator Bill Warrant believes Laundrie is no longer there.
If he's not in there dead, somebody's helping him. You cannot survive down in Florida without a car, without a credit card, without a phone, without some place to go. It's nice and dry and cool. It's impossible.
Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Keith Ablow told me Laundrie may be trying to trick police and the FBI into thinking he committed suicide. It's been reported that he left his wallet and his cell phone here at the house. What does that say to you?
To me, leaving your wallet and cell phone at a house, rather than saying that you're going to commit suicide, says I'm going to run. I have no use for my credit cards. I can't use them. I don't need my ID because I'm never going to be identified as Brian again. And I'm not going to be traced or tracked, so this cell phone is useless to me too.
Laundrie is now officially a wanted fugitive after a federal grand jury issued an arrest warrant accusing him of using a Capital One debit card and a PIN number on August 30th and September 1st to withdraw at least $1,000 from two bank accounts, presumably Gabby's. That's a game changer when it comes to the parents, because now that there's an arrest warrant, anyone caught helping Brian Laundrie will be in some legal hot water themselves. Now today, the Laundrie parents did receive a grocery delivery here at the house with what looked like about 2 weeks worth of food. So it appears the Laundrie parents are planning on hunkering down here at the home for the long haul.
Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you out looking for your son?
Yeah,
that was a great report.
A really good video. There's tons of possible sightings all around the U.S. and in other countries right now, and I know that it's kind of bad for any young white bald male.
Yep.
But all these little sightings and stuff like that are really helping the FBI with their investigation.
Yeah, and I think we want to continue to help the FBI with their investigation. And John Doe says this is the downfall of two social media narcissists. You know, a guy that I work with, a fellow pastor that I work with, said the thing is, like, we don't know much about Gabby, and if we knew more about her, maybe we wouldn't be so compassionate. He wasn't trying to be mean, but I mean, to John Doe's point, like, we really don't know much about her. Okay, it says this. Look, let's see. Brian is not 37. I get that, but he's 23, but he's losing his hair. You know, I mean, how many 23-year-olds are losing their hair? Wigs and Wine says sociopathic. This is a question for you. Do you think Brian murdered the girl at the store? Yeah, we've said that a few times.
Yeah, I think that we kind of have pointed to that a couple of times, that there's a trail of people behind him and behind the possible sightings of him. And that does not look very good on his behalf. And whether they're connected or not. I think that it's a possibility for people to look at. It's really concerning that there's a trail of bodies behind him, and it's really sad and everything. And I'm really hoping that they're not connected, but I definitely think it's a possibility.
Okay. I mean, just because someone has a channel on YouTube does not mean they're a narcissist. That's totally true. We're not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it's a good strategy. If I was advising a 20-year-old that wants to have a free life, I would advise them to become a digital content creator, because there's so much freedom with it. Okay, they asked the father if they got into argument on camping trip and was hurt and passed. What do you think, Evan?
I think that I know that they had some communication with Gabby's dad during the camping trip. I haven't really heard it from Brian's father though. I really don't know. I think it's really weird how Brian flew back to Florida to move the stuff out of or into a storage unit. And I think that may have been the start of the whole thing.
Wendy, this is the big question. She says, have they checked the parents' plates to see where they went camping? You would assume that the FBI has all hands on deck at this point. If you want to join our live stream and if you have certain questions you want to ask, email press@tylerfeller.com with what question you want to address. And we can send you the link where you can hop on to the StreamYard with us for a couple of minutes. I think I'll let a couple join on because we'd love to hear from some of you guys. Email press@tylerfeller.com, and me or my assistant will send you a link so that you can hop on. Okay, it says this. It says, luckily, face recognition is on our side. No way he will set foot in a city or populated area. I fly a lot. I'm on trips a lot. And there's certain airports that I've gone to. It's usually when I'm traveling internationally, but there's certain airports that I've gone to where they don't even request your ID. They just scan your face and they know who you are. When you're getting on the plane, they'll scan your face and your ticket will print out. You don't even have to give them your ticket. And so the facial recognition that we have, I mean, it goes far beyond anything that we can even fathom. What's the rush to empty the storage unit? What did they do with the contents? I want to know this. What do you think about that whole theory?
I think that's a really good point. That's kind of that really needs to be answered. And ask the parents why did he fly down? Other than what contents were in the storage unit that needed to be moved right away. And if it is connected to the Gabby case, why do you think that he had to have moved to help with everything?
Yeah, I know. Brian is nowhere near where a camera can see him. He's hiding in the forest, not in Florida. There's a theory, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of allegations going around right now, and I think that everything that all the allegations are being considered really, and they're trying to connect evidence to really give them any positive insight. And one thing that I do want to mention is the fact that nearly every day we're having some big news outbreak talking about some new evidence that's coming along. The investigation.
Yep. A lot of moving parts right now. You're exactly right, Nathan. We can't say that enough. There are a lot of moving parts. And Gabby did protect Brian and lied to her parents, at least to her father. A lot of times a daughter and a mother are way more in tune than what people realize. Like a lot of times, those daughters basically share everything with their mother. That doesn't mean that it was okay. It doesn't justify it. It's heartbreaking to me. I'm heartbroken over the way that we now know that Brian was treating Gabby. We know that he slapped her. Listen, for someone to call 911, that's a really big deal. I mean, that is a really big deal. So, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And it's really sad, going back to the interaction with police officers. It's really sad how Gabby was taking the blame for all that. They definitely had a premeditated idea of, if they were ever in that situation, what they would say and who would take the blame, and make sure that their stories lined up. They were definitely in an abusive relationship, and I think it really shows that Brian was the primary aggressor and towards everything, even though that Gabby made it seem like she was. And just the fact that someone called 911 to say that they seen Brian hitting her, and then they get stopped, and then Gabby takes the blame, that should really raise suspicion of that their stories aren't matching up to what the witnesses have said. And yeah, I think that really, I watched a video on the body language that they had, and just Brian was definitely really relaxed during the whole thing, and you could tell that there were certain aspects that Gabby was very stressed out and when asked certain stuff, and then very relaxed whenever she was talking about stuff she really enjoyed.
Yep.
To the point of that there was definitely a lot of manipulation going on between the two of them.
And wasn't it sad when she was like, he doesn't really believe in me? We have some questions flowing into the press@tylerfeller.com email address. We'd love to feature some of you on the stream. If you have something you want to talk about, email press@tylerfeller.com. We'll send you the link to hop on here with us if you want to. Hop on for a couple minutes and just talk with us about what's going on. I know there's a lot of things that we want to talk about that are not being able to be answered. Tim says she lied to her family. She lied to her friends. She lied to the police. It is terrible what happened to her, but at some point, doesn't the victim need to speak out? And it's true, but if you've been on the other side of abuse, it's nearly impossible to get to that place. And Evan's mom's a therapist as a job, and maybe we wish she was on this call. She can speak more to this, but people who are on the other side of abuse a lot of times are not in the right state of mind to be able to speak out, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And really, being in a toxic relationship, sometimes it's really hard to get out of it. And more people need to realize how to understand signs of a toxic relationship, and be able to walk away from the situations. And during that interview, you heard Brian talk about how whenever she would be very OCD about stuff, how he would just walk away from and make it sound like he was the hero in the situation. He was doing everything right. And it just goes to show that people's actions speak louder than their words, especially in this situation.
Yep, absolutely. Here's a question. Where did Gabby stay in her van when the Moab police separated them for the night of the 12th? I wonder this too. Did she go to a hotel? Did she actually end up in the hotel with him? Did they stay separated? And those two girls were killed in Moab on the 13th. Those two things are connected so tightly interwoven together, it blows my mind. Did Gabby go camping with the girls? Did she make friends at the Moonflower, with the girl who worked there? They're all living the same lifestyle. They're van life. They're vegan types. You know what I mean? Like, this is a good point. Like, we don't know enough about where they were at. I went on a trip to Lake Tahoe with some friends of mine at the beginning of the summer, and we did the Life 360 thing where, like, we knew where each other was at all times, just in case something happened. And we were renting the little scooters and driving around the city. I want to know if my friend goes on a trip, if my girlfriend goes on a trip, if my niece goes on a trip. I want to know where they're at. I'm tracking their movements because I want to know.
Yeah, and I think that really the van life community is being affected by this because if there's a lot of stuff going on with the whole van life community. And I did see one good point in a video the other day that it's not necessarily the van life community, it's being in a toxic relationship that is blown up. And the van life community is getting the backlash of it. And I think that I never realized how big the van life community was, but it is like a family for them. So
It's interesting on some of the Lake Tahoe groups that I'm on. A lot of people are selling their white Ford Transit vans that they were trying to convert, and I don't blame them. You know, they're in this situation where like we don't want to be seen with this kind of a van right now. We need to hear the radio call to see if it was relayed that a woman was slapped. That's a big issue to me. Like, was there a delay in the communication from the 911 call to when they were pulled over, and what was that? So.
Yeah, and I have got to listen to that call a little bit, and like we talked about earlier, the idea of hearing that that she was or that Brian slapped her and was pushing her around and stuff like that, and then the interaction with the police where she took the whole blame for everything. That definitely raises some red flags about it.
I didn't read about them having drugs in their camper. I went through what was in their camper. I had a Bible, a journal, and some other things in their camper. So I'm not sure really what was on. If we sent you the link to join our call, make sure you have video on. We want to make sure we're adding people that have video on. Okay. Let me see what else is happening on here. It says Mexico's too far. I don't think he went to Mexico. There's a chance he went to Cuba because Cuba's non-extradition. We used to have people from Cuba coming to Florida. There might be a chance that Brian took a boat and went to Cuba. Some people were saying, well, was he live on Instagram and there was water and somebody captured that? It's impossible to capture a live in 3 seconds and record it unless he saved it and uploaded it to remain there. And I just don't think he did that. I think somebody was saying, hey, we saw him go live. This is what it looked like, and it was water, and we don't even know if that's true. Okay.
Yeah, I think that Cuba seems like the most reasonable if he did go into a different company or a different country. And I think that, but I honestly don't know how realistic that could be because of other boats out there and the magnitude of the size of the boat that you would have. And there's a bunch of different factors into it. And I could be wrong, but I think doesn't Cuba have a pretty good lockdown of their country?
Well, they opened it up.
Okay.
Actually. They used to not allow Americans in. Now they do. We had a listener, and if you, Jen, if you want to hop on the stream, I sent it to you. You can go over this with Seth. I see you're on there. Do you have a video, Seth, that you can join? Somebody said, a listener, Jen, sent this, and she said that she put together what she thinks shows some crossover between the two other girls and Gabby. So on August 9th, there was a post on August 12th that mentions them being at Arches National Park. On August 12th, the post on the national park goes live. At 4:30 p.m. on the 12th, there is a phone call that reports the dispute at Main Street and Moonflower. Kylen was working at the Moonflower Co-op that day until 3 p.m. So it is very possible that Gabby and Brian could have been in the Moonflower earlier that day, took a stroll around Moab, went to grab a late lunch or get whatever supplies they needed. It's very possible that Kylen and Gabby became friends, okay? Let's keep reading. And it says then, pulled over. Which motel did Brian go to? I want to know that too. Where did Gabby stay? If anybody knows this information, send it to us. On the 13th, Brian posts on Instagram twice. It's his last Instagram post. When did they leave the area? 8:30 p.m. We know the couple leaves Woody's Tavern, okay? Last known sitting. Friday evening, they were with friends, and they told them there was a creepy guy at their campsite. This guy just creeped us out. In fact, if you'll remember, Jen and Evan who sent this, they actually said if something happens to us, it's because there is a creepy guy out here. On the 14th, they told their friends there's been this creepy guy. We're definitely moving campsites. So their last communication was the 14th. On the 15th, we don't know anything that happened. And then on the 16th, the police received a report of the couple missing. I believe it was Kylen's father. And if you've read the report, Evan, do you know much about it? These two were shot and then drug in after being shot. Both of their pants and underwear was off, and then they were dragged into the stream. Are you familiar with that?
I have not. I didn't hear all of that. No.
So that's what was being said.
Have they found out a cause of death or anything like that? Or have any evidence of who may have done it or anything?
There were gunshot wounds, and that's why people were making suggestions about certain things involving a gun in the Red, White, and Bethune video. Now, I don't think that there was a gun in that picture, as some were suggesting, but that's why people were saying that, because these two were murdered by a gunshot wound.
Yeah, and I'm really wondering if once they get done with the full autopsy of Gabby, if it is apparent that there was a gunshot wound or something like that, if they'll be able to make that connection or have an idea if they for sure if they were not related.
So let's keep reading then. It says on the 17th through the 23rd, it's unconfirmed according to Gabby's uncle, but Brian flew to Florida to help his dad at a storage unit, and Gabby was left at a motel. I believe this. Gabby's dad, corroborated the story on Dr. Phil. He didn't specifically say she was alone, but he said she was staying at the Fairfield Inn by herself and needed some pizza and food, and he sent from his Domino's app food for them, and she was staying by the Salt in a city. Why would she be in a city when she's on a camping trip? In Salt Lake City by the airport is where she was staying. Okay, in that time period where they think that Brian is home, that couple is found at a campground. The bodies were found in the river. Like we said, clothing was missing, multiple gunshot wounds. The South Mesa area of the LaSalle Loop Road. And by the way, there was a wedding within a few yards of where they were camping. Over 100 people was at a wedding venue that night, and no police went there and said, were there gunshots? Did you guys hear gunshots? I mean, there were plenty of people that could have played into this. What we don't know is, did Brian have access to them? And the murder of these girls and the murder of Gabby was about 9 hours apart from where their body was found. So that's why people are saying there's no way it's possible.
Yep. And I just want to go ahead and say that they've already said that social media has helped tremendously around for this investigation. And I think that through other missing people and stuff like that, I think that they really have learned that social media is the way to get information spread fast, to get the Instagram detectives out there and working and putting all these pieces to the puzzle together to where they're able to make the investigation go smoother. And I really think that the big thing that really started this is the Northport Police Department. They went to Twitter almost right away and started tweeting, and it just blew up from there.
Yep. Okay. Let's keep reading. And by the way, you guys are asking me to block somebody. I'm having a hard time seeing who that person is. If I catch them, the comments are rolling in so fast, I would be more than happy to block them. Instagram Moonflower on the 12th had a melon event. On the 13th, Brian with a melon. They have a photo of Kylan. I totally agree. I have watched the video. It says, watch the video of the interview with Kylan's dad. I watched an extended interview, hours-long interview with her dad, and he did great. He did great job going through it. And in fact, he set up a clue booth where he said there's been 35 clues brought to him, and most of them have been actually useful. Okay.
So I actually haven't seen that video. What all does it talk about?
I can't find that Made You Fade Away account. It's not showing up on mine. I thought I blocked it. I have my iPad rolling too. If I see the Made You Fade Away over here on the side on my iPad, I'll block it. I already blocked it from myself, I guess, because it's not showing up. Because I blocked somebody earlier Maybe you all have to block them individually or something. I'm really not sure how to do it. It's our first time doing a stream. By the way, if you're enjoying our stream, we want to do more of these. Hit the like button on this video. It helps us get in the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to our channel. We'll come out with more videos tomorrow and maybe even the next day, or not on Sunday, but maybe even Monday. And as new developments come, please consider giving. It helps us dedicate more time and energy to this. You can give at tylerfeller.com/give. You can give to my PayPal. You can give to our stream account. Okay, let's get back to
Michelle McGee asked for just a quick rundown of everything that we've covered. So really, we're just going over everything that has been confirmed. The fact that Gabby's death was ruled a homicide. Brian is on the run. He's been on the run for a couple of days. The neighbors saw him and his parents go on a camp trip. The neighbors haven't seen him since. So really, it's declared a manhunt. Actually, in Tyler's community, there was surveillance footage of him coming in and using Gabby's debit card and getting money out of ATM and buying stuff at the Casey's. And Tyler is recorded a video on that. It's on his channel for you to watch. And so that's the real breaking point to be able to get a warrant out for his arrest in case they ever do get to see him. Then they'll be able to arrest him on the spot instead of him just being a person of interest during this homicide.
We're gonna add Seth to the stream for just a second too.
Okay.
Seth, what do you have to say, man?
You just brought something up that I have two things to say now. The first thing is going back to the two girls. I was listening to an interview with her, with one of their dads as well. And one thing that really caught my attention that is pretty similar to this case is, when they were investigating the cause of death with these two girls, obviously they were public with, there was some kind of bullets. They got shot. And following that, I think he said within 24 hours, in that community, they basically said there was no threat to the community. That really caught my attention because, you have two people that were just shot, and, their clothes were taken off of their bodies. So how, you don't have any potential suspects. How is there no kind of threat to the community if you can't guarantee the safety? And that kind of
that's a great
was brought up.
I mean, there's definitely a threat to the community, and that's the biggest frustration. People that live in the neighborhood, people that are connected to the situation, they've been saying, "Why didn't we get him in the first time?" Because there's definitely a threat happening.
Right, and when I heard that, I went back and watched the first interview they did with the Northport Police Department when they were still in charge of the investigation, and the first thing that the one question the one reporter said was, is Brian armed? Does he have a gun? Is he a threat to the community? And they said that they would not be able to answer that.
Yeah. I mean, what do you have to say, Evan?
Yeah, I think that those are some really good points. It's really weird that they're that there's not more information about that, more information about who may have done it. There's no evidence or anything like that on the bodies. It's just really weird that the situation, or the fact that they were shot and then how they were left. It's really crazy. And it's just really, I'm just really curious of if there is a connection. And the fact that you brought up that could be a threat to the community. That's something that I really haven't thought about.
I heard a lot of people saying that.
Well, and it really struck me because, originally I understand, obviously he was a person of interest originally. But now that you have him listed as a potential suspect in the homicide, how you're suspecting that he's related to the homicide in one way or another. So if you don't know where he is, how is he not a threat to the community?
Yeah, I guess I listened to an FBI agent earlier talk about this, and he was saying that the safest route for them not to get hung up later in court is to get something they know for sure that he is guilty on. And at this point, they know for sure that he's guilty on using Gabby's PIN number and card. Again, that was personally confirmed to me by the manager of the store today. What are the chances? It happens to be in the town that I live in Illinois. And I went there and I got the full confirmation from her that it did happen, that he used her debit card and withdrew some money, made a purchase, and they have the transaction records and they have the video footage of that. And so they know as a fact that that's happening. Hey, thank you. Loving this channel. Good work. Thumbs up. Listen, I know we're having some issues. I blocked the person personally that you guys are talking about I needing to block. I think each of you are going to have to block them individually because otherwise we messed up. If you're interested in joining us on this live stream, you can email press@tylerfeller.com. Apparently, we need some moderators too. Email press@tylerfeller.com if you think you could be a good moderator for us. Some people are asking, what does a moderator do? A moderator they're given permission where they get rid of blocking spammers for us in it. And when you comment, I think you're highlighted in the comments and you get to respond to people on behalf of us. So thank you for doing that. And if your name is Kelly Brumball or Tay S, comment right now and I'll make you a moderator. And if it don't work out, then I'll unmake you a moderator for our future streams. But I'll make you a moderator right now just because it would super help us. Eli, it seems like you want to be maybe a moderator. Evan, can you go ahead and continue to go through this timeline starting on the 21st and just working your way down? And Seth, thank you for joining us on the stream. We appreciate you being here with us, man. Feel free to join on again. Hopefully you get a webcam next time we're on. We'd love to have you, even if it's from your phone. Join us that way.
Yeah, you made a lot of good points. We appreciate it. So on the 21st, we can see that Gabby talked to her dad, and she ordered he ordered some Uber Eats for him because they didn't have, from what I heard, that they didn't really have good cell service or something like that. And so that's 3 hours. They were in Salt Lake City. The 22nd and 23rd, we don't really have any good evidence on what may have happened. On the 24th of August, Gabby and Brian leave Salt Lake City. They check out of the Fairfield Inn, and Gabby FaceTimes her mom. And I know that this is one of the last real interactions that the mom had with Gabby. And then on the 25th, this is when it starts getting kind of suspicious with her activity on Instagram and the text messages that she has with her mom. Gabby posts on Instagram with no location, which Gabby is known for having a location on her Instagram whenever she posts. It was a picture from the Monarch in Ogden, Utah, the last Instagram post. Gabby tells parents she's going to Yellowstone, which is a 4 to 6 hour drive from Ogden. And there are multiple texts. I know those multiple texts. They're not sure if that was Gabby. I know there was some irregular that there was some words that were said that didn't really sound like Gabby. On the 27th, between 1 and 2 p.m., there was a witness had interacted, or not interacted, but was part of an argument. We're seeing an argument between the two of them. At the Mary Piglet in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That was the last known sighting of Gabby. There were multiple texts from Gabby to her mom during that time. From 6 to 6:30, family films parked van at Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming. The van's back door closes, pair of flip-flops on the ground, and top vent closed. I think that was during the Red, White, and Bethune video that was released. And during an unknown time, text from Gabby's phone to her mom: "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." And it turns out that Stan was her grandfather, and that is not how she referred to her grandfather. The 28th, we don't really have a good timeline. On the 29th. Gabby was supposed to meet up with a friend at Yellowstone and connected on that day by the phone. Plans were not confirmed, and I think that her friend actually came out in an interview and said that Miranda Baker picks up Brian, who was hitchhiking alone in Coulter Bay, Wyoming, 27 miles from the campsite. That was at about 5:30. At about 6:15, Norma Jean picked up Brian near Pacific Creek Landing and dropped him off at around 6:30 at the Spray Creek Dispersed camping area. And I know that Miranda Baker has a TikTok that you can kind of see her story of the interaction that she had with Brian. At 8:30, Gabby's parents received a text from her phone saying no service in Yosemite, and it was very odd that it was several days after, because usually Gabby was very good at texting her family just about every day, and it was really weird that they went all the way to Yosemite and didn't get any text messages from Gabby, and so that was definitely a red flag for them. Brian was spotted in Georgia on a fraud poster. Laundrie is suspected of using a debit card and PIN for accounts that don't belong to him for charges of more than $1,000 sometime between August 30th and September 1st, according to the indictment. And I know that Tyler can confirm that. It actually happened in his community, at the Casey's in his community. He got to talk to the manager at Casey's today, and there's a video on his YouTube that kind of explains that whole interaction that he had with the manager. And the manager did confirm that it was Gabby's debit card, and it was Brian that used it, and they did not see Gabby. So on the 31st, he stopped at Casey's General Store in Benton, Illinois to withdraw money, make a purchase, and did so using Gabby's card and PIN. On the 1st, Brian returns to Florida with the van and with no Gabby. The license plate reader shows the vehicle exited Interstate 75 into Northport at 10:26 a.m. It's about a 35 to 36 hour drive.
I mean, this is incredible. I had too many windows open. Thank you so much for sending that in to us. And if you guys have any other info, please continue to send it in. I mean, it's so helpful to us to be able to have that and to be able to use it. Does anybody have any?
I think some big questions that are being asked right now is, what did he buy with the money during at the gas station? What did he buy? And also, was there any large transfers of money from his parents' account that could have helped him out during his running away?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the question of the day, right? Perfect 10 says, a dispatcher, STAN is an acronym for send the authorities now. The pizza she had with her dad was also a getaway for her to give the address. Just a few other things that stood out to me. That could be true. I don't know. Are we still echoing? I think I was echoing maybe off of Evan's computer. I'm not sure. It shouldn't be echoing now. Our email for those who are asking is press@tylerfeller.com. If you're interested in joining the chat with us and you have a video, we'd love to join you, let you join in. I don't know, Perfect 10, if Gabby knew that STAN stood for send the authorities now. You would think if she was sending the message to her mom, she would have said something that would have been more code with the family that they would have understood. Maybe she thought, maybe her mom will Google it and say urbandictionary.com, what does this mean? Or she might have thought, well, I know that she would never call her STAN. Maybe I need to search into that. So
yeah, I think that that's a really good point. I haven't really thought of that. The fact that maybe she was giving subtle hints of what exactly was going on without raising red flags to Brian.
You guys can also text my Google Voice number if you have if you want to join the chat and are not as good at email. The way that you can do that is you can email press@tylerfeller.com or text 812-573-0864. If you have a video, we'd love to have you join our call, and you can ask us some questions or share your insight. We'd love to have you be on there. Here's another thing about Stan from First One. Stan was a message for her mom to check the grandfather's voicemail or text message. We don't know. I mean, we want to know that, but we don't know if we do that. Tyler Feller, this is rock solid. I assume that means, do you know if Gabby stayed somewhere in Indiana at some point on her trip, August of 2019? I don't know that. I wish I did know that. I don't know that one. Brian did have control of her phone, always having it. Maybe that was a sign saying, "Stan." What do you think about this, Evan? Because we know that that Brian had a history of using her phone.
Yeah, so going off of that, I think that could be a possibility. And during the police interaction, if you notice, he's saying, "Oh, I don't even have a phone." But then later during the interaction, he pulls out his phone for the police officers.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that could be a sign that maybe he was just in control of the phone. But I think that ensured the parents that it was no longer Gabby texting them.
Yeah. Thanks to those of you who are wanting to be moderators. We're doing our best to add as many moderators as I think we've added 4 or 5 moderators that have emailed me. Thank you so much. We're gonna want to do this again tomorrow and go live. But as long as people are on here and are staying tuned in to what we're talking about, we want to stay with you tonight. We have way more. We thought, like earlier, we're like, maybe we'll have 100 people show up. Now there's over 3,000 people on this. And so it's really blessing us more than we ever thought. And you guys are helping my channel grow, which is exciting for me. And I make a lot of content about other topics. But if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button or hitting the like button, it'd be really helpful and just helping the YouTube algorithm more than anything, more than it is about looking good on numbers. It's about helping us bring justice for Gabby and her family and us figuring out what happens. If you're anything like me, I'm completely heartbroken over what's happening. And I know the thing about Gabby is she's so relatable. When I see Gabby and I see what's happening, I can equate so many different stories of my own life to that. So I appreciate you guys doing. Thank you, just subscribing. Thank you, Beverly Morton, for just subscribing. People have been asking, do we have a YouTube super chat? I don't, because my channel's not been monetized that long. It's only been monetized since January, and they send you a pin in the mail. And my pin got lost in the mail because I have multiple addresses. It went to one of my other addresses, and it got picked up by somebody. And so I can't set up my super chat like Wigs and Wires say it would. I wish I could, but in the meantime, you can go to tylerfeller.com/give and just click give. And if you do that, it will go to our PayPal account. You can give that way. Or we have another form of giving, which is through Stream Elements, and you can tip that way. And if you do that, that helps us out much. If you would consider doing that, that really, really means a lot. And so thank you for those of you that have done that and have considered doing that. Somebody just sent me a text and said, do we know if Brian was on medication? I don't know, but if you want to talk about that, we'd love to have you join our call. Are we echoing? I don't hear an echo from my angle, but I might. Okay. We have somebody else that are joining. Let's see who we have. Wendy, thank you for joining. What do you have to say?
Hey guys, I'm new to your guys' channel. Thank you for covering it. I just had a question, and I had something I wanted to mention. So Gabby asked for a pizza. I don't know if you guys knew that. If somebody needs help because they're being abused by their boyfriend, they can call the police and ask for a pizza. So I wonder if that's what Gabby was trying to do. I don't know if you guys know the date of when she ordered the pizza.
You know, I've
Maybe
heard about like people calling 911 and they order like Domino's, right? And then they'll say, like, oh, sorry, you've called the wrong place. And they're like, no, this is who I mean to call.
It's a code for I need help, I can't talk. So maybe that's what Gabby was trying to do.
What do you think, Evan?
I think you guys are bringing up a lot of good points that haven't really been talked about a lot. Is the acronym for STAN, as well as ordering the pizza, and something that I really haven't thought about. But now, the more that I hear it, the more that maybe she was asking for some help. Maybe she didn't really know how to leave a toxic relationship. And I know that there's a lot of people that are in these domestic violence situations that don't know how to get out of them, and that's it's a big reason why I believe that this is blowing up so much. Is because it is so relatable. People have been in toxic relationships and have been in the same situation that she's in.
And I mean, she was in this vehicle with him 24/7. She couldn't just leave. And then from the reports, he was trying to take the phone away. So she probably couldn't text like, hey, daddy, I need help. He's abusing me, because he would track everything, trying to take the phone away. So she maybe the pizza could have been, you know, that like way of asking for help, because I mean, she could have driven somewhere. They could have, I don't know, maybe grabbed food along the way, but maybe that was code. That's what I was thinking. It's kind of become very popular to ask for pizza if you need help and you have a domestic problem, a domestic dispute.
And that's becoming more well known. You're exactly right about that. Do you think though that she would do that to her own father? Like, oh, I'm having like, it's funny that she's calling her dad, who knows nothing about the internet, to help with her internet issues, you know?
Right. That could be it. I mean, she just probably was trying to get creative on how to ask for help, and maybe she thought he would know. But I definitely do think that he had control over the phone and, I mean, the car, locking her out of the car. So I do think that it is possible that she didn't know how to ask for help. I mean, when you have a narcissist, and it sounds like that's what he is, and he's controlling, you can't even talk to anyone, because they'll track your phone, they'll look into your messages, they'll question you even talking to the waiter. And it's unfortunate, but she was very young, and that happens often when you're young and inexperienced. I mean, I know about it. Toxic relationships, especially when you have somebody that's controlling. And she was beautiful, so he was probably very worried about losing her, and who she was talking to, what she was doing, what was she researching, why was she spending so much time online when she was just working on her website.
I mean, these are all great points that I didn't think about.
Yeah, and I think that that you're onto something for sure. I wanted to bring up one more thing or kind of reintroduce the fact that of how proud she was of her blog and how proud she was of her website. That was one way to calm her down during the police interaction. You could tell how much anxiety and how upset she was during the police interaction. As soon as she brought up her previous job at the juice bar, or brought up the blog and the website and stuff like that, you could tell how excited she was and how passionate she was about that new journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. Evan, your mom's a therapist. Has she said anything to you about this?
So I actually, my mom wasn't paying attention to it, and then last weekend I was like, "Hey, have you heard about this?" And then she just she went full force on it. Started sending me videos on reading body behavior, where they broke it down and read the body behavior between Gabby and Brian. And I know that she's watched several different videos of different professionals that have broken down their relationship and stuff like that. But one thing that I do want to point out is the fact that what's perceived on the internet is different than what's perceived in reality. Yeah. So it's really hard to get a good grasp of everything just by looking at their Instagram and by looking at the interaction in front of people. You really got to see the police reports of what people have seen, where he was seen slapping her and that domestic violence. That's the true Brian, and that's what people aren't seeing when they look on social media.
Somebody's saying, who is Rose? Rose was her best friend. And Wendy, maybe you can talk to this more from a female perspective. Girl best friends share all kinds of details guy best friends don't.
That is true. You know, when you have somebody that's not mentally stable, it just seems like that's what Brian is, and he's very controlling. You don't even tell your best friend. You're kind of worried of what they can say in the future, or things that could come up when you're around them. So maybe she felt she couldn't tell her best friend everything. There's certain things that are kind of embarrassing, like, you know, he was pulling me, or, you know, he maybe shoved me, that you don't really want to even tell your friends.
Yep.
So having a best friend doesn't necessarily mean you tell them everything. And especially knowing if he was controlling, maybe he was also checking her text messages. What are you talking about? Who are you talking to? But sometimes things are very just private, and it's embarrassing. You don't want to tell anybody you had this domestic dispute, or he was pushing you around, or he pulled your hair, or, you know, he put, you know, his hand over your mouth, like, or the way he did it in public there. So you can tell she was a little embarrassed.
Do you think she told her mom? Because if you look back on the body cam footage, the police officer says, "I'll let you get back to the phone call with parent." You remember him saying that?
Yes.
I
think
like
she did everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I think. I think the mom knew everything.
So probably Rose didn't know all the details. Maybe she knew here and there of the little fights and arguments, bickering, but not maybe the abuse, if she did have any. Because I don't think this was the first time or the second time.
Well, thank you so much for calling in today, Wendy. We really appreciate it. And if anybody else is interested in joining today, all you have to do is you can email press@tylerfeller.com, or you can even text our Google Voice number, which is 812-573-0864. We'll send you a link. I've sent the link out several times, but I'll send the link out to you, and we would love to have you join on the call like we just had with Wendy and Seth earlier, which we love hearing from you and your theories and what's going on. It helps us. All we're trying to do is bring justice for Gabby. Trish says the dad said they didn't know about that until the video was released. I know the dad said that, but the mom and dad are divorced, and it's possible that Gabby was telling the mom about the situation and not her dad. I know that if a dad of a girl that I was dating found out that I was treating her like that, they'd come running for me. And so sometimes I think in this situation with Gabby's dad, he didn't want her to know. Okay. I remember going through this and being harassed by his friends not believing me when my neighbor used to sit across the door. Wow. So many people spreading false info. And Krista, what we want to do is we actually want legitimate information. We want facts. And so we are trying to get to facts. I've added several mods on here, and it's a situation where we weren't expecting 3,000 people to be on the stream today, yet that's what happened. And so we appreciate all of you guys, and do us a favor by hitting the like button and subscribe button. But we want to do more of them, and we've added up until this point 3 mods. We've had more people ask us if they could be mods, but we have to have your URL. I can't just have your name. I have to have the URL of your YouTube channel. That's how I can add you to be a mod, and we'd love to have you be a mod. Yeah, we can hear her on the body cam. That's a good point. When the officer asked her what she do for a living, that's the thing you keep going back to, Evan. When she asked her, will you get into that a little bit more, because you've analyzed that quite a bit?
Yeah. So throughout the whole video, you could just tell how from the moment that the police went up to the car, you could tell that Gabby and Brian were talking to each other in the car. Maybe they were trying to discuss what their story was going to be, or something like that. And the whole time, I was actually watching a video where they broke down body posture during the police interaction, and Gabby was very nervous the entire time. Was going through some anxiety. Had some covering up her mid torso, where she is a sign of anxiety and a sign of being afraid and stuff like that. And then they go into talking about the police officer goes and kind of starts to calm her down, de-escalate the situation, and say, okay, what do you do for your job? Okay, yep. You used to work for a juice bar. And she started calming down. And then he goes in to say, or she starts saying, I have a little blog channel, and he's not very she goes, I want to start a blog channel and a website, and he's not very supportive of it. And then later you hear Brian start talking about, and he uses the word little blog and little website and stuff like that. It just really shows you what he thought of that idea. And I think that it's a good point to show how manipulative Brian was in that relationship. Yep. Really, he went to the point of kind of downplaying her goals and her dreams that she had for her career.
Yep. I mean, that's a great point. And man, there's so much that we can keep diving into, and I want to say this from my perspective. I saw I saw a report on the news that he went to this gas station in my community. I went to the gas station. It was confirmed that he had went to that gas station and withdrew money, and that's the point of the arrest warrant that the FBI put out. Here's a question or a statement. They were basically a high school couple, grew up together in Long Island, went to the same high school. I think what happened was he actually began high school with her, but then moved to Florida and finished high school there. And then they reconnected sort of at the end of high school. So it's like he started high school there, but then he had moved to Florida. We have Joshua, it looks like, trying to connect. Joshua, if you're connecting, make sure you have your camera on and make sure you have your microphone on and make sure that you have YouTube muted. How come no one, this is from Linda, has spoken up for Brian like a friend? Interesting and odd. Not one person to contest his personality and temperament. That's a great point. I haven't heard very many people talking about, in fact, Grizzly Books, true crime. She's somebody I've been talking with all day today, actually, on Instagram. She went through all of these people who are blocking and unfollowing Brian since all of this news came out. It's not like he had much people that were mutual followers. People that he was following that was following him back, okay? Agent 99 says, maybe we need to find ways to get these cops trained to see the signs of what would say DV. I don't want my channel to get strikes, okay? Someone says, I have a lead on something. Well, what is that lead? Tell us, okay? You can send us some information on press@tylerfeller.com. Evan, go ahead and read this. I got some emails I need to check into and respond to it.
Everything in text, calls, GPS emails, credit card activity, voicemails are crucial to piece together the puzzle of what truly happened. Stand is important as a word, and I truly believe that. I've been thinking of that analogy all night. That every single bit of information is really a puzzle. And we're the authorities and people on social media are just trying to put all these pieces together and find out the direction that that Brian could have went, the actions he could have took, signs to make us know for sure that it was Brian that committed the homicide. And I think that's really important. Like you said, so the FBI came out and said that they had to have access to be able to pinpoint their phones, but it's not like what we see on TV. It is whenever they get a text or a call or an email and it pings their phone, and it's also not right away either. So all those are key components to allow us to build a timeline, to build a path, and everything like that.
Hey, do you guys want us to come live on here again tomorrow with more information, the latest updates? We are brand new to this. This is our first ever live stream, or even I do a lot of different communication type events, but this is my first time doing anything in this genre, and I want to approach it. I'm a pastor. I want to approach it from a faith-based perspective, and that's the lens I have in life. But I think it's important. I want to be able to take a look at this from my perspective, and I think it's a unique perspective. And Evan was a part of my ministry for many years as well. We're going to put that's the perspective we're going to have. So many people are saying yes. Recap the morning searches, so maybe come on tomorrow. People are saying yes, 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 please do. If you want us to come back on, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, we would love to be able to come back on. Here's the thing. Why didn't the police ask Gabby if she feels safe? Why didn't the police see the red marks on her arm? I saw that. I saw a situation on her arm, and that's a common place that people look. And some people are saying, were they there or they weren't there? To me, they were there. What do you think, Evan? Did you take a look at that?
Yeah, I did notice some marks on her arms. Kind of seeing how she was at the beginning, you could see how she was hiding her hands behind her back and kind of trying to pull attention away from her hands and her arms and stuff like that. And I think that should have been a question that the police officers asked. And I think that there's a lot of questions that the police officers that were in that situation are getting asked of. Why didn't they pull Gabby out of that situation, especially when they were told that they seen Brian hitting Gabby? And why didn't they, if Gabby was knowingly hitting Brian, like she said, why didn't they just go ahead and charge her for domestic assault and pull her from that situation? And I know that they said that she didn't, her intent wasn't to harm him. But I think a lot of the questions that we have are, would this outcome be different if the police would have pulled him out of that situation?
Wow. I mean, that's a great perspective and a great, thing that I don't think we were paying much attention to. It says, Zachary says, because he didn't have any 100. Agent 99 coming in clutch today with lots of good comments, is saying, I feel like if police would have pulled away Brian, where Brian didn't hear what they were talking about, there could have been a better decision. And a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, is actually a master sergeant for the state police, which basically means he's in charge of a whole area and a whole department. And I asked him about that because we lead a junior high middle school ministry on Friday nights, and we were just there together. I asked him about that before I told him I'm going to go live tonight. And he said from his perspective, and he deals with murder cases, that's his MO, that's what he does as a living. He was saying those police officers in that moment did everything that they possibly could do. And I respect his decision, and we need some better training to read between the lines. But Cynthia says, I pray that God will put someone in his path that will notify authorities so Brian can be arrested. Brian may think he's fooled everyone, but there is one he cannot hide from, and that is the Lord. Somebody says Rihanna would have gone back to Chris Brown. You know what? There you go. You're making the point. You are making the point right there that people in these types of situations tend to go back to their abuser.
Yeah, and it just shows that toxic relationships are unfortunately very common in today's day and age, and it's very sad that the fact that I saw someone comment that abusers will, or the people getting abused will cover up for their abusers, and that just really need to bring light on the fact that it's okay to walk away from a toxic relationship.
We have Jake who sent us a police report, and I think we might be going through that in just a second. Dave says people in abuse always go back to something till something really bad happens, and I think that's true. I think people tend to go back to it. Let's see. Tyler Feller, this rock solid. The reason I ask about Indiana is because I'm from St. Clair County. I was on vacation. Yeah, I don't know if Gabby was in Indiana or not in 2019. Watch the lady officer's interview where she tried to convince Gabby to leave that relationship. And I mentioned that earlier. That female police officer, which I want to be as respectful as possible to those police because I felt like they were doing what they could in that situation. But I felt like the female police officer who was a federal agent working for the Park Service, she was in that situation and she spoke to Gabby and she said, you're in a toxic environment, a toxic relationship, and I think you need to get out. And I think that's so important. She needed to get out.
Yeah. I think that, there's been some comments that have said maybe Gabby was trying to get out of it and she just couldn't. And I think that's some of the questions that we're always going to have. We're going to always have these what if questions, but that's not going to change the outcome of the situation. And we just got to be respectful of her passing.
Jake, if Jake's still watching, he sent us actually a PDF of the police from Moab, and it's the case details, and it has sort of the call in there. The other call, and we haven't really talked about, it says that the police department and dispatchers responded. Is it on the screen? Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll put justice for Gabby down there at the bottom. It says that they responded to a report of a domestic problem that had taken place near, hear it again, the Moonflower Co-op. It appeared that a male and female had left the scene traveling north in a white Ford Transit with a black ladder and the male and female had engaged in some sort of altercation. I haven't read this from the police officer's standpoint. I've heard the 911 call. This is my first time reading this. It wasn't clear, but I believe the reported male had observed to have assaulted the female. How does this correspond with the timeline? So this occurred at 4:30 p.m., reported at 4:39 to 4:44 p.m., and on August 12th. And when we look at when they got pulled over, according to our other timeline, do we know the exact time? They were pulled over by police at 4:45. So they actually got pulled over not because of this call. They got pulled over because they were going 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. So they got pulled over 1 minute after this call ended. I don't know how this wasn't relayed whenever they went and they gave, hey, license plate number QFTG03 from Florida. How was this not relayed immediately?
Yeah.
So it says, I heard other officers that they were to look at the vehicle and they had to pass the Moonflower in order to get to the main street. I stopped to see if any witnesses were still in the area. I found one identified as Chris. Okay, I didn't know that part of it. I knew that there was another story from Chris. And so Chris gives a whole nother side of the story. It says, I arrived on the scene and observed 2 park officers arrived. I assisted Robbins with his investigation. I wanted to see if the male was drunk. He wasn't drunk. Was he a danger to himself or others? Clearly he was, but they didn't realize it. Before leaving, I spoke with the male driver of the van, the female passenger, and also called Chris to get more information. All 3 individuals gave me a similar and consistent story consisting of the basic idea that the driver of the van, a male, had an argument with the female, Gabby. The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to take a walk or calm down, and she didn't want to be separated from the male and began slapping him. He grabbed her face and pushed her back as she pressed upon him in the van. He tried to lock her out and succeeded except for his driver's door. Now, Evan, you and I both know you don't hit a girl no matter what. Like, I ain't hitting a girl no matter what. It don't matter if she's wanting her keys to her car. Is that what's happening?
Yep.
She wants her keys to her own car that he won't let her in. So she's trying to physically retrieve them from him, and he slaps her. And somehow, because it makes a mark on his face, she's the aggressor. Am I reading this right?
That's what it says.
No one reported that the male struck the female. That's incorrect. We just read the police report just a second ago that says that. Both the male and the female reported that they are in love and engaged to be married, which the mom says was not on anymore, and desperately didn't want to see anyone charged with a crime. There were no significant injuries. Gabby suffered from anxiety, etc. It appeared that this incident was more accurately an emotional break than a domestic assault. I had to leave, but I understand that Officer Robbins got the male lodging through Seek Haven. Gabby retained possession of the van, and they agreed to separate for the night. No charges were filed, and no one wished for charges to be filed. That's crazy. I was not fully aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And that document's really...
Yeah, thank you, Jake, for sending this over. It says he was going to leave her in the parking lot. She crawled in the window. Yeah, I heard that she crawled over top of him.
For her van and her keys.
For her van and her keys.
Yeah, I think that...
and he hit the curb. Brittany M. is saying he hit the curb. He was going 30 miles over the speed limit. The police said it took us a second to catch up to you. She says, sorry, it's my fault. I grabbed the wheel. I was distracting him or whatever. He was hitting the curb. And you can, if you watch the very beginning of that police cam, he's shocked. Like he's scared they're about to go off the road and wreck because he hits the curb. And then she started hitting him, Jacqueline says. But this police report we're reading, it actually goes all the way back to the incident at the Moonflower.
It's really interesting.
They assaulted each other clearly. I mean that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I go back to is in the police footage. It's apparent that maybe Gabby was a physical abuser and Brian was a mental abuser. And honestly, it's just a very toxic and manipulative relationship. And at this point, Ryan could have been doing all the abusing, and Gabby could have just been trying to cover up for him. But there's a lot to
I'm
think
going
about.
to take a poll, and I'm going to say, is Brian guilty? Yes or no? Let's see what people say. Did that poll come in? It's going so fast, it might not have came in. Oh, there it is. 100% yes so far. Let's see how people, 98% to 2. We'll leave it up for just a couple minutes, then we'll end it because I want to know who. I don't want to leave it hanging for too long, but I want to know what the situation is. If Brian is not caught soon, he may never be caught. He'll wear a wig, he'll shave his beard, he'll change his identity, and he'll live right under our noses. I think that this is a possibility. That Whitey burglar or whatever, the guy who was the mafia kingpin, was literally on the run for like 17 years, living in Santa Monica, never being caught. And it's possible. And that guy murdered a lot of people. And it's totally possible that that Brian, if he's alive, could get away. Laura SB says, I think she was defending herself when she hit him. It seemed she was only hitting him while he was driving because that was the only time he would reach to hit her. Okay. By the way, Tammy Mahon sent us $5.65 on PayPal. Thank you, Tammy, for doing that. That means a lot. It helps us out, helps us be more devoted to doing this. And clearly there's a lot of you on the stream tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button or subscribe. And if you feel led to do so, or you feel like you want to bless us, then I want to encourage you, go ahead and send us. You can send us some money on PayPal, or you go to tylerfiller.com/give. And that's another way that you can do that for us. Somebody says Brian will become Brianna. What do you think about that, Evan?
It's I don't know if that's appropriate, but no. Yeah,
that's like the funniest comment.
That's a funny comment. I wonder if he'll try to kind of blend back into this world, kind of changes appearance, changes name to see. And how long do you think this could go on for? This Manhunt could go on for?
I mean, that's a great question. I want to hear from people in the comments. How long do you think that the FBI will continue the manhunt? I want to know that. What do you guys think? How long will this last? A 911 else call who they say he was slapping. That's what we were just going through. This is the actual report that Jake sent us, and we're going through it. And we were reading it. It's very, very, very telling. Deborah says, I pray it's over soon. 1 more week max. Not condoning abuse, Sylvia says, but I want to know if Gabby had visible marks when the cops stopped them. What do you think, Evan? There's a possibility that she did on her arm, right?
Yeah, I think that it wasn't necessarily bruises. It was her arms were a little red. I think that what happened was they did get into a little confrontation in the car when they were getting pulled over, and maybe he slapped her or something like that. And because in the police footage you could see what looked like to be some red marks on her arms, and she was trying her best to hide her hands and hide her arms at the beginning of the police interview.
Yep. And that's how I read it. And by the way, our poll's done. We had about 500 votes in it, and 97% was yes, he's guilty. And yeah, we suspected as much. Okay, well, if we want to take 1 or 2 more live callers, and then we'll hop off tonight and comment yes or no. If we do a live stream tomorrow, are you willing to jump on with us? Because this is our first time doing it. In fact, we are shocked that this is how many people showed up tonight, but we'll do one tomorrow if you guys want us to, if you're enjoying it. Again, I think we're coming from a unique perspective because we're coming through a perspective of our faith more than anything. This is how I look at everything. Clearly, we're talking about the case, but I wanted us to be able to talk about this at a deeper level. If you want to be on, if you guys want to jump on the call with us, email press@tylerfiller.com. I'll send you over the link so you can hop on. And if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you want to hop on, then we would love for you to. Somebody's saying slow the chat. I would love to slow the chat. There's a reason I can't. The 647 number that's calling me, you need to text me, and then what I'll do is I'll send you a link, and you can click on and join the live stream with us that way. Okay. Here's a question we have from Satara. What if Brian was the one posing in the blurred photo and uploaded it as a clue? I think there's a chance. I think that there is a chance. Okay. All right. If you're calling me, do not call, but instead go ahead and send me a text to that number, and then what we'll do is we'll send you a link to join the call. But what if Brian was
that's what her dad called him, was Brianna.
Oh, that is what her. I remember reading that was her dad. He said he always gave her boyfriend's nicknames like that. Okay. Now that Brian has federal charters, that'd be interesting if he has U.S. Marshals. You know.
Do you guys think that the FBI knows more than what they're letting out for the public?
I definitely think the FBI knows more than. I want a number to talk. Tamara, the number to talk, text 812-573-0864. You need to text that number, and if you text it, then we'll send you the link, okay? We've had several people calling that number. Calling that number is not the right thing to do. Right now, Craig Garcia or Garcia Craig is calling me right now. What you need to do instead of calling, you need to text that number, okay? I'm going to go ahead and mute that tab because I don't need that continuing to go off. But go ahead and text 812-573-0864. We'll text you a link, and then if you just click on that, what will happen is then you can call in. And if you don't have your video, I mean, we would prefer you to have your video, but I know some people can't. Okay, probably, but it's good that they say nothing until everyone shares their idea in case they're wrong. I think that's a valid point too.
Do you guys think that they know where he is?
This person's saying it's going to end up as a cold case.
You
guys need a burner phone. We do need a burner phone. Send us one in the mail if you want to. Okay, people in the yellow where it says Taylor will lead you to donate to their station. Yeah, thank you for doing that. We've only had one donation tonight that's registered with us, and we totally appreciate it for $5. I wish we had the super chats enabled. I'm not able to get the super chat enabled until I get the pin from YouTube in the mail. Even though my channel is monetized, it's currently not being monetized because of that reason. Okay. Thank you so much, you guys who are pulling in and get super chat. I want super chat. They won't let me have it until I can verify my account, and maybe if I can call them or something. 6 hours is a long time to spend at a coffee shop. I don't know, when you're working, and I do a lot of content creation. I help manage social media and contents for a variety of organizations, and 6 hours isn't long. I was at a coffee shop for 3 hours working on different things today. So it depends on what you're doing there. If you're just drinking coffee, yeah. But if you're there working on stuff, it's really not that long. When do the FBI unbutton their lips? I want to know this too. At what point is the FBI willing to share with the public more information that they have? U.S. Marshals will track him down. They've got different means with rewards going up. Now, there is a reward that a Tampa area law firm released, and they said we'll give you $2,000 if you can figure it out. I getting a text message that says, I want to clarify. I answered no to him being guilty, but I think I misunderstood what you meant. I thought you were asking if he's guilty of physically abusing her, but I believe Gabby was more physically abusive and Brian emotionally. I definitely believe that he killed her. And so we had one of those answers, and I sent that person the stream link if they're interested in joining us on that. Here's another thing. Someone, Green Dragon, is saying someone reported them from the Moonflower, and they called 911 about them, and she worked there, and they all three wound up murdered. Okay, we've talked about that, haven't we, Evan? Pretty in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's saying I saw the sonogram pics were debunked. They definitely were debunked. Is there anybody else wanting to join us today? Because we're gonna hop off of here, I think, for the night, unless 1, 2, or 3 of you guys want to hop on and ask us some questions or share your point of view.
Tyler, one thing I want to mention is I think that this is going to be available to rewatch. Is that right?
This is available for rewatch. Yes.
If you guys missed any part that you want to go back to, and if you came into the chat a little late and kind of want to go through the points that we talked about, we try to cover mainly facts, and if there were some allegations, we tried to kind of process through them and see if there was any facts towards them. But it is available for rewatch on the YouTube channel, along with the video of the interaction at Casey's. Tyler showed the kind of the path that he would have took to get to Casey's. He also spoke with the manager and confirmed that it was Gabby's card and everything like that, and kind of confirmed the allegations on that. So if you guys want to rewatch it, feel free to go back towards any part of the live that you may have missed. So yeah. Yeah, I am seeing that the reward is actually $20,000 and not $2,000.
A $20,000 reward from a Tampa law firm, and there was another law firm in another area that I think said 5,000, and so there. I mean, people are definitely able to add that up, I think, and it depends on how the law firms want to do that. At this point, any individual can say, "I'll give you money." If I was the Laundries, I'd be worried about and thinking about my own son if they really thought he was missing. I think that's a point or perspective that people haven't talked about. You know, my son was missing. I would certainly, definitely, certainly go above and beyond. If you're wanting to join the chat, you need to text me from your number to 812-573-0864, not call me. Thank you guys so much for joining. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. We're up to 4,500 subscribers and about 1,300 likes, and so we really appreciate you guys hopping on here with us, and it really means a lot. And I'm getting a lot of messages, and tomorrow we'll slow down the chat for only people who are subscribers, not because we're trying to force you to be a subscriber, just because that helps us in a way keep the chat manageable. Thank you for those of you who've decided to be a moderator for us. If you want to join tomorrow and be a moderator, then what you need to do is send me your YouTube URL. We got to have your URL. We can't just have your name, which I thought we could have earlier. It says, got it. Sorry, guys. Came in late. Found the channel. Didn't mean to bring up what's already been covered. It's okay. It's okay. And we've been on here for quite a bit of time, but it's okay. It says they're creepy and they're weird. The first lawyer statement, they don't even know. I think the lawyers, I don't know. It's a hard situation, right?
At the end of the day, the lawyers are getting paid to defend, to give the best defense to their client. And that's what they're doing. They're doing their job. Yeah.
Okay. We just got some more text messages. So let me see. Pray for justice and closure. Okay, I'm sending you that. His parents, here's a text message. His parents are waiting at the bank for the bank to get her not to tell them where he is and then use the money for defense. I don't know about that, but it's a theory, right? Then Josh, we have a text from Josh saying that tomorrow he'll join us because he has some logistical things that he could cover. That would be great. And then somebody messaged me some stuff from Instagram, and that's great. We went over some of that, but we'd love to go over it more. And if you want to join tonight or tomorrow on there, we'd love to have you join on this call with us to go over it. Okay. well, thank you guys so much. Send any money to Gabby's family. They're organizing a foundation in her name. That's one way to help the family. And I know I'm involved with a lot of different funerals. They are not cheap, and especially of this magnitude. I think and they're hit with financial burdens. They're not able to even work probably right now, and so just it's good to be thinking about Gabby's family. Maybe the police know more, but I don't think he's in that reserve. That's totally, I don't know. That's totally a possibility, but because they're expending $1.2 million worth of manpower and effort, I have a feeling very likely that they're in that they think he's in that reserve. Oh, Tammy is gonna. It looks like Tammy's joining. It says devices not connected. So Tammy, we at least need your microphone connected before we can add you to the stream. CK says, I know nobody is buying juicers from those people right now. I thought about that too. I'm like, that whole juicer business is down the tank right now too, because at this point. Satara says, good night, guys. Thank you so much for everyone's insight on how we can help in this horrific case. I totally agree. Thank you, everybody who has given us great insight tonight. Eli says, praise the gator that ate him. We don't know if that happened. Barbie says, trust me, those on the Appalachian Trail will know he's wanted, and the trails run behind my house. Okay, be on the lookout. Go look outside and see if he's standing there. Just imagine how many people are in a similar situation right now to Gabby's. This world, yeah, there's a lot of people who are in bad situations. He was a narcissist. She was the constant victim. This looks like he wanted to go do this trip because he was the killer. I can't help but speculate. If I laid my money down personally on one perspective, I'm leaning towards that one. Like, it was premeditated. This is a fantasy that he sort of cooked up with some of the books that he's reading and different things. It feels like he wanted to sort of create a fictional world that he's read so much about. We got another payment from Anita Wilson. Thank you, Anita, for sponsoring our channel, $21.10. It really means a lot. It helps encourage us, and we'll be given definitely a portion of what's given to us to Gabby's family, just as a way to bless them, and it encourages them, and really Kylene's family too, because once you watch the video from her dad, you have such a heart. I had such a heart for Kylene's dad, one of the ones from Moab that was murdered, because you just realize these families are going through so much right now. And even by us being on YouTube to talk about it is a big deal for them. It encourages them. They want us to be doing this because it lets them know that there's justice, like Satara saying, for the girls. Okay. And it's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. Watch the movie Wind River on Netflix, okay? So if some of you guys want to dig a little deeper into that. It's hard to believe that he would do it since he loved her. He would be caught driving her car. What do you think about that, Evan?
Yeah, I think that the expectations of reality versus social media, really, they seem so happy on social media, on their Instagram and everything like that. It looks like they genuinely loved each other. I believe that she did love him, and that's why she was in the relationship during the difficult times that they went through. But at the same time, there was a toxic relationship, and it was hard for her to get out of it.
Somebody texted me and said, I heard he has a brother who's a cop. We don't know that for sure. That's been a theory. We haven't been able to break it down. We know about the sister. So we don't know much about that. We got another text that said, I meant to say his parents are waiting for the bounty to get high enough so they can tell them where. Yeah, I mean, they could be, but I think the parents would probably be barred from getting the bounty. And Tammy, we see you trying to connect, but for some reason your devices are not connecting. We'd love to give you a chance to hop on here with us. But for some reason it says your devices, either your microphone for some reason is not coming through. It says maybe he snapped from Deborah because she tried leaving and he lost it. Several people have commented that tonight, and so that must be a woman's intuition type thing, at least from my perspective, because a lot of females are commenting saying maybe this is what happened. Okay, I don't know for sure, but Universe says, can the parents be interrogated? Not at this point. And I found this out today, that lie detectors are inadmissible in court. And so nobody ever has to take a lie detector test. And even if they take it, you can't use it in court. They use it, they said, as an investigative tool in research. And so, because they're unreliable, but it allows them to ask questions and then have a greater insight into certain situations. So at this point, the parents have no charges against them. In Florida, assisting your child in a situation like this, you cannot be held liable. You're not responsible if your child's committed a murder and you help them. I don't know about federally, but I know in Florida, they're not in trouble even if they were helping their son, according to some experts that I listened to. I hope that federally they could be. And if they lied to the police officers, definitely they could be. Josh says his parents would have said something by now. And we don't know. Maybe his parents are. It says he either fed them bad info, which is very possible, or families aren't that close, again, possible, or they do know, and they literally are past the point of anything now, unfortunately. Very possible. Eric with the C. You would think that the police dogs would have been on Brian's scent or picked up the smell of a dead body by now. Very true. You would think these dogs are very, very, very good. Irish Eyes said, in Florida, you cannot be held liable, but the charges were filed in Wyoming. The charges that were filed in Wyoming were for using an access device, okay, which is a totally different thing. Turquoise says it took 4 years of heck to get help from my neighbor with schizophrenia. I bet the #1 hit list before they finally took him to the mental home. Brian has similar ways. You know, that's a good point. And man, maybe tomorrow, Evan, I don't know if your mom would do this. Maybe tomorrow your mom could hop on. We could ask her some questions. I don't know if she'd be willing to do that. She might be scared. But because Evan's mom's a therapist and has great insight to all of this. But there has been multiple reports from people close to Brian saying that he has trouble sleeping at night because he hears voices. And I know about schizophrenia, and I have a DSM-4 book in my library. I could go grab it. But they say this about people with schizophrenia, that it begins to develop late teens, early 20s a lot of times. And so it is very Turquoise. That's a good point. Nobody's talking about. Nobody's mentioned that. And maybe if we had a mental health expert, which would be really interesting, Evan, if your mom joined us tomorrow, even if it was just for a few minutes, people would probably go crazy asking her questions. But she could definitely give some insight into that. Brian absolutely took their lives, and it's horrifying. Thank you to everybody who's being a moderator. Thank you so much, man. Somebody says 1K is the max. 800 is the max where I'm at. I don't know. It's different for. I can set a smaller amount on my account, but I don't even know people who can get 1,000 most of the time. If I do it, it has to be more than one transaction. I can get more than 1,000 out, but I have to do it in more than one transaction. Anonymous, I think that's why the witness's neighbor saw him walking in the neighborhood to avoid being heard. That's very. I did not see Anonymous's comment, but that's a very possible plausible thing. Man, does anybody think that this situation is super familiar to Chris Watts? Was anybody else jiving with the Chris Watts story? And then as they're paying attention to this, there's eerily similarities between the way Chris Watts' behavior was with police officers. Evan, what was the term that those body language experts were using? Hyper, do you remember what it was?
I can't remember.
Hyper compliant, right? Yeah. That's what it was. There's just this attitude about them that are similar to me. Zero, people keep commenting this. And the reason why, because there's #1, there's 2 Appalachian trails. One of them starts in Florida, about an hour and a half. Another one starts in Georgia at the sort of northern end of Georgia. And the theory was, if the parents were gone on a 3-day camping trip, maybe they dropped him off at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail, 1.5 days drive away. All right, April, we're going to add you to the stream. Thank you for joining us. What do you think's going on here? Are you there? You're gonna have to unmute your mic. We can't hear you. I think your mic's muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Let me.
Yeah, you'll have to mute the YouTube.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to comment because I've actually been in this situation before, and here, Kelly, dealing with domestic violence, and I think that he definitely is the abuser. In the situation that I've been in, I actually called the police, and when I called the police, my abuser ran out the car and actually went into the bushes and scratched himself and literally came back in tears. So I know firsthand what it's like for someone to be sarcastic and a narcissist and manipulator. And I definitely believe that what happened to Gabby is that he's going to be extremely upset that the police got called to begin with. So with him being extremely upset that the police got called to begin with, that anger is going to build up inside of him. And he is going to blame her for what happened, especially the police mentioning that he hit the curb and he was going fast, and he's saying that he wasn't paying attention because she was trying to grab him. So I definitely feel that what happened to Gabby is that he was extremely upset by the police being called. And in the end, when Gabby, when they got separated, and Gabby stayed in the van and he went to the hotel, he still had a phone. And with him having that phone, what my abuser did to me, and I think this happens to a lot of women, not everybody is lucky. I am definitely lucky to be a survivor, because he did try to kill me after that.
Wow.
So what happened to me is what I think, and this is just my thought process of what I think what narcissists do and abusers do, is they manipulate you. So by him having a phone, they did communicate. How would the police know that they did not communicate just because they were separated? And when they did communicate, and I'm not saying this is exactly what happened, but in most cases, they will use that against you. They will use that. The police accused Gabby. They accused her. They accused her of being the aggressor. Whether or not she was or not, she was ultimately accused as being the aggressor. And that is scary for police to call you an aggressor, even though you're not. And they tell you, well, we could take you to jail. Your abuser is going to say, I can get you locked up. Look what the police just did. Do you see what just happened? The police were about to take you to jail, but I prevented them. So that's what an abuser does. I prevented them from taking you to jail because I didn't tell them what you did. Which is what he did. He didn't tell them everything, which is why they didn't take her to jail. So when
You're
they
right on, and so many people,
that was used against her. She had no choice but to reconnect with him, whether or not he did go and drop the no contact order, or whatever the case is, because they had no way to follow up with that, or they didn't follow up with that. We don't know. We don't know if they did follow up with that, but in most cases, that's what they do. They use that against you. And I believe that's what happened to Gabby. She didn't have any choice but to go pick him up from the hotel, because how did they get back together?
Right.
She had to go pick him up. She had to go pick him up from the hotel. And that's how they got back together. And she said, make sure you have your charger, because she wanted to make sure she could communicate with him. And when she communicate with him, she's scared. She's scared out of her mind. She's worried. Well, I hope he's not blaming me because the police already blamed me. Pretty much that's what happened. I hope he's not blaming me because the police already have blamed me for this. Blame me for being the aggressor when all I did was try to get back in my own car. And I've had my abuser try to kick me out my own car. And luckily I'm away from that situation, but I've had my abuser try to kick me out my own car. He's took the fuse out of my car. They do things like that so that you do get who's not going to get upset, who's not going to get irate. And as a woman, we are emotional. And so when you do things that it could be something to make us angry, we react. And that's what Gabby did. And it's unfortunate because Gabby is not the only one that this happens to. Right. There are some that are lucky, and there are some that are, and I'll just say it's unfortunate. Some that is very unfortunate that it happens, but more often than not, this happens. And in my case, the police didn't even explain. It was unbelievable to me how they explained so many options. They didn't give me any option.
You know
That's
what's
what they did to me. They took me to jail.
In my job as a pastor, I get involved with so many families in these types of situations. And there's even children and kids that we know are in abusive situations, and definitely spousal abuse. And a lot of times the police don't do anything. Exactly what you're saying. And I just want to say thank you, April, for joining the call. Please join us tomorrow. Thank you for liking and subscribing, because so many people were resonating with what you were saying, and it just means a lot that you would join us. So thank you for being with us today. What we're gonna do is, man, we've had so much fun on here with you tonight. If you guys don't mind, if you feel led to give or you want to, you can give at tylerfiller.com/give. That's a great way for you guys to help us continue to do this. And like I said, it's our first time even doing a stream, and so we're blown away by how many people showed up. We're going to be back on tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time Zone. So we're going to answer one or two more questions, but I want to encourage you to join us tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central Time Zone, and we'll be on for a couple of hours, and we'll be able to go over the new developments, and we'll even go more in depth on some of the things that we've talked about. And so thank you. Yeah. And again, April, people loved what you were saying.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and add on that real quick. It just brings us back to something that we've said throughout this whole live stream, that one of the reasons that this investigation has really gone so popular is because of how relatable it is. People are relating to domestic violence and how it is hard to get out of a toxic relationship like that, even when you are being abused. Yeah, you did a really good job explaining talking about your personal experience, and that it takes a lot to be able to talk about that. So we really appreciate that. Also, Gabby is just so loved. She had just a bubbly personality, and so many people could connect with her. So that's you did a really good job, and we really appreciate you sharing your story.
I put a poll, one last poll for us to end on tonight. It was should Evan's mom, the therapist, join us tomorrow? And so if you don't mind, go vote in that poll really quickly, and just let us know, should Evan's mom, who is a therapist, join us tomorrow? And thank you, Jamie, for saying please like and subscribe and hit the little bell button so you're notified to get in the conversation. It's going to be 4 p.m. Central Time Zone. Every time somebody donates or gives to us, we'll give a portion of that to Gabby's family, and we know that they definitely need it right now. Shalia says, unfortunately, it's not ever just that easy to leave. I know that as a fact. It's not easy to leave when you're in those situations. Lily Rose, by the way, that's a great name.
It's also not easy to talk about personal experience like that, and that's why we really appreciate what April has talked about.
Yeah, we really appreciate April. It's not easy to be vulnerable, especially with a few thousand people watching. Lily Rose says, I connected to so many things that happened to Gabby. I think that's why this case has taken off, and some people are getting upset about it. Like, why is everybody so in tune with this case? Well, here's why. We can all relate to it. Okay, we can all relate to it in a different way. Turquoise says, I think the parents hid something. Possible. Designs by Kelly, thank you. Please text 812-573-0864. That's the Google voice number. It's not a real phone number. It's a Google voice number. Please don't call that number. It's not going to do much if you do. It took me almost 20 years to leave. I know. People get stuck. I think late night would be best for you guys rather than midday for viewers. Possibly. And we'll find out. I don't typically, for me, just because my job as a pastor, I don't stay up late on Saturday nights. I go to bed pretty early. So we'll try 4, and if it doesn't work out, then we'll do a different time on Monday night. But we want to continue to make sure that we're trying to get justice for Gabby. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining the call. Thank you to all of our moderators that hopped on last second for us. Thank you for joining and becoming a moderator at the very last second for us. We really appreciate it. And if you want to give, tylerfeller.com/give. Thank you guys for joining our broadcast.